welcome to Rolling with the Punches. I'm Jessie Punch. I am so happy that you're here. This week's interview, get comfy. It's a long one for y'all this week, but it's a good one, okay? I wouldn't give you almost 2 hours of chatter if it wasn't some of the best chatter you're ever gonna hear. No, for real though. BJ McLeod. If you know BJ McLeod, you love BJ. And if you don't know BJ, you're gonna love BJ after you listen to this interview. Truly one of the kindest, most humble, genuine human beings that I have the pleasure of calling a friend, really. And I have told him that on numerous occasions, and I do so once again in this interview, so get ready. But him and his wife, Jessica, were so kind to have us over to their house to record this interview. And I'm glad because I'm hoping it gives you a little more of a well-rounded view of who they are. You may be familiar with BJ's experience behind the wheel in NASCAR. He's been driving in NASCAR's National Series for over 10 seasons now, almost, I guess, 15 years now. He's had a presence in that racing world, but we talk all about his background in racing. He's been doing that since he was 2, believe it or not. But more so than anything, the business side of things. Him and his wife, Jessica, are just business moguls. In the NASCAR space, they own 2 teams, a Cup Series team, Live Fast Motorsports, and then an Xfinity Series operation in BJ McLeod Motorsports. You may remember a little over a year ago, they sold their charter for their Cup Series team, Live Fast. It was a huge sale, made massive waves in the NASCAR world and in the business world at that. So it was really neat to be able to sit down with BJ and follow up with him now that the dust has kind of settled and life looks a little bit different for them. But they still have that Cup Series program, and we got a chance to kind of talk through what the future looks like for that team and what they're hoping to use that ride for. And most recently, we saw them on the racetrack this past weekend in Phoenix with Catherine Legg. I mean, what a cool way to enter that 78 into that race and make a little NASCAR history with her Cup Series debut. He also talked a little bit about that and gave kind of an interesting perspective as to how that whole deal went down, which was kind of nice to hear, given some of the media and field feedback that we got after her run on Sunday. BJ didn't hold back. He gave his opinions on the current state of NASCAR at all levels. He talked a little bit about some things he would like to see changed in the sport. I'm not going to get too into the details, but it's worth sitting down and listening when somebody as successful as BJ has these strong opinions that he's willing to share. Not to mention, we also cried. So quite a well-rounded interview. That's right. I made BJ McLeod cry. Happy tears. I wasn't mean or anything. It was good tears. And then in turn, I cry because how do you not get teary-eyed when you're sitting next to a grown man in an Affliction t-shirt and studded boots who's tearing up? Like, it's just natural. So it was a very nice little moment there at the end. Worth sticking around to see the tears. But all that to say, please get comfy. It's a long one, but it's such a good one, and I'm so excited for you guys to get to know the McLeods a little bit better. Lastly, if you're not watching on YouTube, you should be, because we quite literally shot this in their basement, which is a speakeasy, a literal speakeasy. I had to go through a fake telephone booth just to get in there, and then once you get in there, they have a whole axe throwing section. This was the most incredible compound I've ever seen, and I knew I was there when I got to the large black gate with the gargoyles on top. It was BJ to a T. So, all that to say, get to know BJ McLeod. BJ McLeod, what is your full name?
It's Burton Darwin McLeod Jr. You're probably the first person that's ever asked me that on camera.
Are you serious?
I believe so.
Okay, so Burton Darwin McLeod Jr.
Yep.
You would think then you would go by BD McLeod.
I don't, because my dad's BD. So,
okay, so you're Burton Jr.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, solved the puzzle. Look at that.
Yep.
That makes sense. Perfect. I love it. And you never wanted to go by Burton?
No, I definitely have always enjoyed my name. My mom switched it before I can even remember, right? So when people call me Burton, I'm like, oh, I guess it's, yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, my name's BJ.
If your mom doesn't even call you Burton, that's when you know.
No, never has.
Yeah. Well, and then in racing, I mean, because again, you were racing before you made the conscious decision to be racing, it seems.
Exactly.
Racing's a nickname sport. You had to have a nickname. So
right. So I came in with one. So it was all good.
Yeah. And let's be real. Burton doesn't hit as hard at the racetrack.
No,
Sorry.
No.
Maybe it's a last name, of course. That's a given. But Burton doesn't bring the same.
No, for sure not.
Burton doesn't roll up in an Affliction t-shirt and boots.
No, Burton
BJ
definitely
does.
sounds smarter than I am.
Oh, stop. you to me are an anomaly in so many ways. And I hope that you felt that anomaly with the most amount of love, because I mean that with the most amount of love. I respect you and Jessica. She's here as well. I don't want to put her on the spot because I know she's the last person to want to talk about herself. But anomaly in how you carry yourself, who you are as a person, and then the business, what you've built for yourself with where you come from in your background. Anomaly is the only word I can think of, and I'm so excited to delve into it today. But before we do that, hello. We are quite literally sitting, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you need to be watching this on YouTube. We're sitting in a speakeasy.
Yes.
In your house.
Yep.
That's the coolest thing I've seen ever.
Yeah, I'd always enjoyed, I like watching TV shows, right? And Boardwalk Empire was the one that I really enjoyed. And I was like, you know what? I need a speakeasy, right?
I need one of those.
Yeah. So we bought a house that it's older, and we've been redoing it for 4 years now. We haven't stopped. It's been like maybe the entire time. We've had 6 months that there wasn't contractors here, but when we had a basement that was open, it was decent size, and Jessica and I was like, we were talking about things we wanted to do. So I said quietly, like trying to make sure that I didn't step on the wrong toe here. I was like, what about a speakeasy? Because if she shuts it down instantly, I'm done.
It's done. Yeah. It's like a softball in the air. Hey,
yeah. So I was like, is she gonna think I'm crazy, or is she gonna think it's cool? And I was like, you're really good at decorating, which she's absolutely incredible interior decorator, right? So I was like, can you do me a speakeasy? And she's like, I'd love to do that, right? So I nailed it, right, with the ask, and it took about 8 months to complete it, something like that. They worked on it every day, but we ended up with a speakeasy that we did a little bit of modern. We've got an axe throwing area over here, so that's the only modern.
Axe throw? I didn't even see the axe throwing area.
We got axe throwing, so we put that in because we've been frequent visitors of Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg in the last 5 years, and they have a lot of axe throwing areas over there, so we've kind of got into it, and we thought, what, one of those at the house too. So.
And because you guys are the McLeods, you were like, I'm sorry, a dartboard, please.
Yeah, well,
please.
We're
going to throw axes in our basement.
So we have darts at our cabin in Pigeon Forge, and I was like, I want an axe throwing area,
let's have
because what can you do that's more fun? If you're frustrated, you can throw as hard as you want. If you just want to have a good time and you're happy, it's fun too, right? So I was like, let's do it. So anyway, she ended up fitting the axe throwing in here. That was a whole, battle in itself, because they won't sell individual axe throwing software. Like, I didn't know it was proprietary, and you have to own a bar to get it, right? So
I had no idea.
She called the guy and said, hey, we're redoing a house. What do we have to do to get the software? And he's like, you got to pay monthly for it. And I was like, she's like, I just want you to know up front, we don't have a bar, but we will do that if that's what it requires. And he said, sure, we'll do it for you. Cause he thought it was awesome. He's like, this is the first one we've seen be put in the basement. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was fun. The way she made it happen, it was cool. And then, it completed the speakeasy for me. So everybody knows that I love rock music, right? But it's like, I love to turn on 20s, 30s music, come down here and just chill. Like after a tough weekend or a fun weekend, either way, it's like, it's just a place to go clear your mind.
It really, I can't wrap my brain around it. And it was already incredible, but then knowing that Jessica is the mastermind behind all of this.
No, this would look like a cardboard box if it was left up to me. Like, I have zero ability to make this look anything like it does. Like, I could pick out the comfy chairs. Like, this is something I would probably pick, but it would have been black, right? It wouldn't have matched. So it's like,
that's fair.
I just asked her, I was like, will you please do this? And she's like, no, I'd love to do it. I'm like, all right, we're in.
It's funny though, because you do sell yourself short a little bit, because for you to act like you have no sense of style is comical. Because look at you, the way you roll up to the racetrack, like people don't have to know you or how you're running or anything, but they know BJ McLeod in the Affliction t-shirt, in the boots. Like, you carry such a presence. Have you always had that sense of style?
It goes back as far as my mom helping me organize my stuff for kindergarten. I can remember this, right? And we had back then, this is what, 88 or something. You've got the tubs that you set your clothes in to make sure you're ready on time. And you had Monday's tub, Tuesday's tub, like all the way through. And I went to do Monday's tub, and I liked bright colors. Like, it was not black everything. It was like, I loved every color, right? So I would make sure, I was like, my socks, I don't want to wear just one color. I want two, because I can have two options. So I never wore the same color socks. I never had the same color shoelaces ever at school. I would always just be wild and different. And, sometime I would say probably 10 to 15, I was like, I don't know, black just feels more comfortable, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like that was my true core. So I was like, I'm gonna wear mostly black shirts and have the boots and stuff. And the boots come in probably by the time I was 15 or 16. I started doing that. So I have definitely never fit in anywhere. It didn't matter where I went. I just didn't. I go to rock concert. I look pretty normal, right? But I've only been to one of them in my life, so it's like I don't know. I just always dressed the way I wanted to dress, and when you start a business at 19 and make your own living, that's one of the benefits, right? It's like I never really had to conform to make a living, and I'm thankful that I've been able to carry that throughout, my time in Cup and all the NASCAR series and every NASCAR official, owner, Jim France, everybody love that I don't fit
Mm-hmm.
anything, right? It's not, I don't think there's a mold anymore because we got a lot of personality now, but it's like, it's, every one of them have done nothing but support that, we are different, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like when we had our Xfinity team, our haulers wrapped in skulls with the sponsors, right? But it was wrapped in skulls front to back. And the amount of kids that would take pictures in Walmart parking lots when we're stopped on the way or, things like that. You see the support you get from the fans and the young fans especially are important to me. It's like that is what you want. You want to give them something different
Mm-hmm.
that they enjoy, supporting and they're like, wow, that's cool. And who knows? It may inspire them to be who they are, right? It's
Yeah.
not skulls, it's just being different, right? Skulls are just my thing.
Yeah. And to your point, there's a whole group of people that resonate with that look, that feel,
Yeah.
that skull, that dark, that maybe have never seen that in NASCAR. So for
Right.
you to bring that is huge. But then on top of that, what I see, and that is I think where when you mention the people, the Jim Francis and all of these people in the sport that know you and respect your ability to stay true to yourself, that is a courage. I mean, that's a courageous thing. Like to come in and be unapologetically you. How do you not respect that? Because to me, you're being nothing but you, and that's genuine. And
Yes.
and I never have to question if you're being anything but genuine with me.
Yeah, that's definitely who I am, right? Like it's just not I've just been who I am because I don't want to keep up with with what's going on, right? I am who I am, do what we do and just try to do good, right? So it's an easier thing when you just be yourself and I've always wanted people to be strong and be themselves. And I feel like the best way to promote that is when they look at me, they're like, wow, you know what? He is him, right? Like there's no shifting or changing or peer pressure problems or anything. It is simply, I am who I am and enjoy my life. And I want everybody to be able to do that.
To me, that's where I go back to that word anomaly, because you walk in a room and you carry such a presence, an unapologetic presence of being you, and then you open your mouth and you're like, wow, this is the nicest, most humble, kindest man.
Yeah.
I mean, really, and not that anything about your appearance should negate that or should have anyone think any differently. I just think when you bring such a hard look to you and then you're such a soft person,
Mhm.
it's really neat. And it's something that people wouldn't know unless they took the time to talk to you and get to know
Oh,
you.
absolutely. I've been in Vegas, let's say 30 times since 2007. Jessica and I started going out there a couple times a year, so probably closer to 50 now, right? When I'm in Vegas, nobody recognizes me for a NASCAR driver. They all think I'm a UFC fighter, right?
No
So
way.
yes,
And you just
that
tell them you are.
that or a rock star, right? They're like,
Yeah.
"Are you sing? Are you in a group?" And I'm like, "No, not in a group." So I understand what you're saying when you say that you could perceive it a certain way, the way I
Hmm.
dress, or even how I carry myself. But I think that that's one thing I've always wanted to show people is you can be who you are and then people get to know you, which you should get to know everyone before you form an opinion, right?
Hmm.
Everyone on the planet deserves a shot to explain who they are and not really explain who they are but show who they are. And with me, I am who I am. Maybe you think something before you meet me, but once you meet me you're like, wow, like that's he's a down to earth humble person that just wants, I want to help everybody until you show me I shouldn't, and I want everybody to succeed no matter what, whether
Hmm.
you're on my side or not. I love to see people succeed and then I want to try to catch up, right? Like
Hmm.
I have found people that are, far more successful than I could ever reach, and I have tried to be and learn things that they have done, and then I've tried to help people that are just starting out, right? And it's like I want to pass along everything that I know, and I want to learn everything I can from people that are more successful than me.
And everything you just said is so apparent and has been so apparent through your career path. I mean, we've seen that in your ability to, it's a balance. You continue to chase your dreams and build your business and build this life, you and Jessica together, but also manage to use so much of that success to pour into developing the next generation of not only driver, but just business person in our sport. And that's where I think there's so many avenues I want to talk with you about. But you mentioned a minute ago, you said when you start your business when you're 19.
Yep.
And that was one of my questions for you. Was at what point in this venture of being a race car driver did you decide that you wanted to also be a businessman?
Yeah, so I would actually say the business. So I've raced since I was 2.5 years old. Okay, before I can remember,
What do you
legitimately.
race at 2.5?
The gas-powered four-wheeler that you had to shift 3 times. It was clutchless, right? You could shift with no clutch, but you still had to shift. It was a 70cc Honda, 1988 Honda. I have it down there in my shop right now.
Do you
So
really?
yeah, so I restored it. So
That's
we
cool.
kept it, and then we actually Geoff restored it for me. But
That's amazing.
it's bottom line, 2.5 years old, I could shift and run a whole race, green to checkered, and that's I remember I remember 2 scenes in my head or pictures from that era. And one was with my grandpa taking a picture of the trophy that I'd won, and I was probably 3 by then. And I remember, like one of the wrecks I had, it was pretty a bit of hole through my lip when I was 3 years old. So
Ooh, yeah,
it
that'll stick with
yeah,
you.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So regardless, it's like starting racing that young, I didn't know I needed to make a living. I was just racing, right? So
Hmm.
racing wasn't ever a thought of making a living. The first thing I saw and thought about when it come to that was my parents had a picking and hauling business. They would pick orange groves or pick oranges. Like we would go to orange groves, pick the oranges, put them in the trailer, and haul them to the plant. So we own the semis, the trailers, the high lifts that pick up the tubs, and the tubs that you put oranges in off the tree.
Okay, because
So
growing up in Florida,
yeah,
oranges
yeah,
is a
Central
huge
Florida,
business
yeah.
on there. Okay.
So they had that, and they had a couple over the road trucks that hauled freight the whole time. I mean, they did it for 35 years. So anyway, when I started to see that they had a business and that's how we made a living, like, seriously, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, I was like, you know what? I want to run the business, right? So I can remember wanting to run a business or their business when I was before 10 years old for sure, right?
Wow.
I I was in school. I had to have all A's to race. They wouldn't let me race if I didn't. I was in, honor society and different things, and it's like I just, I never thought about school. Like I did it because I had to,
Hmm.
but I was always thinking about when can I go to work, right?
Hmm.
Like my dad had an incredible work ethic. My mom had an incredible work ethic. She used to sign an unreasonable amount of checks per week and do them all by hand before computers. There was at one point we had 300 people that would go through that business and all work for us, but she would have to write those checks by hand. And it's like
It's a lot of
seeing
management
well,
to do.
seeing the work ethic that they had, I was like, you know what, I want to go to work and make money because I like nice stuff. So I was always thinking about that, and I wanted to be my own person because I've always was born that way. And bottom line, had a chance to start a business at 19, renting equipment from my parents. And Jessica and I had just got together. The hurricanes come through. We've been together 6 months. The hurricanes come through Central Florida, wiped out. There was 200 tornadoes in like a 40-mile span. It was a ridiculous amount of
Oh.
storms. Hurricane Charlie. But before that, during that storm, there was a serious amount of tornadoes. So they tore up like tons of houses and businesses and different. It was a rough time. Bottom line, we had equipment with my parents. They had just started doing some site work and different things that we had, excavators and bulldozers and front end loaders, dump trucks. So I went to people in town and said, hey, I'm going to start a demolition business, right? So Jessica originally come to me to slip back up 1 second. She's like, you want to try to go the demolition route? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, what do you have to get? And at that time it was a $50 license. That's all you needed to get it. So we went and got a $50 demolition license, and I'm 20 years old, I think, at that time, and turning 20. I was turning 20 in November. I was 19 when we went and got it. And over the next 6, 7 months, we did very well with our business, and that allowed us the chance to keep building and going off of that and moving forward. We did different real estate stuff for the next, I'd say, probably 6, 7 years, something like that. We helped my parents with their business some. And really, what we did started to go down. Like, it just wasn't, you couldn't make a living at it anymore around the '07, '08 area. People were bidding things that it was just being bid at loss, right? And they would do
Mm-hmm.
change orders to get work, and I just wasn't willing to do that. Like, I just could not. I'd rather, do something else. Just get a job if that's what I had to do. And we said then that we're gonna make a living racing, because I just, to my core, my mom and dad always made me build my own go-karts. I built my first super late model when I was 13 years old, everything but hang the body. I'm absolutely catastrophically bad at hanging bodies, but everything else I could do. I built my first engine by age 10. I just learned everything about the business with racing, and I was learning their business, and I did it all before 19 years old, right? So that's when I had that core of knowing the racing business and knowing how to work in a business and having Jessica by my side to help me run it. I just knew that I wanted to own a racing business, because racing was what I knew how to do with my hands, and business is what I wanted to do with my brain. So
Mm-hmm.
it was, I told her, I'm like, we may go broke, we may lose everything, but we're going racing. Right. And we went 2010, we signed our first deal, and we did some stuff in racing in '08, '09, but nothing significantly that we could live off of. We were still, fading out of flip houses and things like that. And we switched to racing in 2010 and never looked back. Like, that's how we've ate ever since. So we've done real estate projects since then that have done very well for us. And obviously, with the charter business and stuff, things went well. But it's like racing was what kept food on our table for, 14 years. Like, it was really awesome that we were able to do that. But it was the decision to just do what you love,
Mm-hmm.
that you're good at. You got to do a service, right? Like, it's got to be something that provides something for someone to make a
Sure.
living. But it's like we were just good at it. The
Mm-hmm.
two of us together, we could provide a great opportunity for someone that wanted to try to make their way into sport, because I've had millions of dollars invested in me to be a race car driver and to know how to build race cars, right? And passing that information along to the next person was, what I wanted to do. And fortunately enough, there was a school called Finish Line Racing School, that operated. I think it started in the '80s. I went to it in '96 as a client. There's been several NASCAR drivers that have gone through there. Regan Smith's one of them that I remember. It was later. It was after he was already driving for Furniture Road, but just off the top of my head. But there's been several drivers that went through it, and the guy that owned that, they called me after they knew that I was, I've been winning super late model races and doing well driving, and they said, Mike, Mike wants to talk to you. So I actually saw him at New Smyrna outside the pit gate, and he's like, will you help me with this school? He's like, I can't get an instructor to stay with me that can actually help people and do
Mm-hmm.
what we want. And I was like, I'll try it. Right. And I did that for 12 years, right? Just off one conversation. So we took all of that, combined it together, and it was that decision to drop back and do what I knew how to do and follow my true passion, which was racing, definitely not doing site work or demolition
Right.
or any of that. That's what put us in the position to be where we are now.
Uh, It's incredible. I mean, it is really incredible. It's funny too when you mentioned the decision to go back racing. It took me back to your ultimate decision to want to get into business, and you joke and you said, "I like nice things." I
Yeah.
mean, it's true. You're like, "Look,
Yep.
I like nice things. I like to drive race cars."
Mhm.
So I'm going to work really hard, and ultimately, let's do business. Let's do
Right.
business in racing because I want to fund what I love, and
Well,
and we're gonna have fun doing it.
there's nothing more true than you never work a day in your life if you do what you love, right? For a living. That
Amen.
is the truth.
Amen.
And I would hope everybody, you don't have to own a business. Truthfully, owning the business is not fun. Like,
You're
I will
like,
tell
don't
you,
recommend. No.
I look at Jessica over there shaking her head. I can tell you there is a lot of jobs and a lot of professions to be in that you could have a higher quality life going home and enjoying your day, that you accomplish stuff, and there's somebody else worried about paying payroll on Friday, because it is a huge pressure that doesn't back off. But Jessica and I also feed off of that. We
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that pressure, and we enjoyed it more when we were struggling than we do now when it's comfortable, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we had more fun when it was hard, right? And it's like, we're thankful for the position we're in, but it was really cool, going to war with her and trying to figure out how to make it. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was it was a lot of fun.
The two of you together
Yeah.
is lethal, truly, when it comes to business. And hearing your story, actually, I thought I knew a lot of your background in that element, but I didn't know from the business side of things. And it blows my mind even more because as I was telling you before we even got on camera how I respect you so much from a business standpoint. Everything you've done in the race car, of course.
I need to be better there. I don't want to sugarcoat that. Like it,
Stop.
I'm not happy with it at all. Like there's not 1 ounce of me that is satisfied as a race car driver. Not
Yeah,
even a
but you're the
little.
kind of person that I feel like
Yeah.
could be out there winning races
You
and
know
you
the most
still wouldn't be
satisfying thing I
satisfied.
have in racing right now,
What's that?
driver wise, is the fans. The ones they support me so loyally that I'm thankful for them because I got to give them more of a reason to.
Well, from a business standpoint, I would tell anybody to take business advice from you. And now even more so, knowing your background, because and not to put you on the spot, I do this in a way that's from an impressive standpoint. Your background in education is
Mhm.
so different
Yeah,
than what you would see from most entrepreneurs.
absolutely.
Do you mind laying out kind
No,
of
I
your
can.
background in?
The reason why is because I had incredible parents that took time to help me learn and made me make mistakes, right? Like at
Mhm.
young ages. Like this is, at 12, 13 years old, I had my first checkbook when I know for sure I was before 8. I had my first checkbook that I had to take care of, right?
That's a
And now,
good
thankfully,
mom
I
and
have
dad.
Jessica. Jessica does all this. She's right now. I probably couldn't balance one, right? But back then, I had to learn how to do it. So
Mhm.
it's like they just took the time to teach me every part of running a business, and it doesn't matter if it makes $10 a year or 100 million. Okay, it's still the same basics, right?
Mhm.
There's many different things that go into $100 million corporation than a $10 one, but the basics are always the same. And that core was taught to me before I was out of middle school, right? And it's like I have that at home. I had great teachers. I actually enjoyed school, right? I never, for me, I just knew that I needed to spend my time making money,
Yeah, I
right?
wasn't learning that in middle school.
Right.
Do
And
you know
that's
how much we could benefit from learning something like
that
that in middle school?
100% it should be changed.
Yeah.
Like you should have to know how to do this stuff before you leave middle school. Like it's not, there's, there's, there's people, there are kids that could do this in 5th grade, 3rd grade. Like, I mean, it's just numbers and it's simple math, right?
Mhm.
And now you got everything to do it for you electronically. I did it all the hard way, right? But bottom line, it's like I had a support system at home that afforded me the chance to learn things that aren't out there for everybody. And
Mhm.
that was something that I remember from a very young age. I wanted to capitalize on what my parents afforded me because I always was able to see it. I see some people sometimes that don't understand what their parents do for them, and they just can't because they didn't do it right. And it's
Right.
like I see I was very fortunate to understand it, and I was also fortunate to have it offered to me. And I wanted to make sure I made something of that and didn't go backwards.
So you only went to traditional schooling then
Yes.
through middle school?
7th grade.
7th grade.
Yeah, so 7th grade, I was begging mom and dad to let me work like during the week. I wanted to
Mhm.
start getting paid. And mom's freaking out. Like she's like, "You're going to stay in regular school until you graduate." And I was like, "Dad, I'm not
You
staying
bet.
in regular school. Like I'm gonna go make money. Like y'all need to just say okay because this is gonna happen, right?" And
And with as
yeah,
mature and as you were
yeah,
at the time and how much knowledge, you're probably sitting in
yeah.
7th grade like, "These idiots around me, I could be
No,
running a business right now."
well, I enjoyed 7th grade we did algebra, right? And I actually got to teach the math class for Mr. Starrett, and he let me because I related to the kids so well, right? Because they're all the same. But it's like
That's
they
incredible.
they seriously he let me teach that class, and it was one of the coolest things for me because he was a very hard teacher to even get an A, right? And it was like when he asked me, he's like, "Can you help me with some of the students?" And I was like, "Sure," right? And it was just a way to relate to them to help them advance their class. So anyway, I remember all of that, and I remember the conversation during the summer because I stayed through all the 7th, and my mom was like, "It's absolutely no." Like she just could not accept the fact that I wasn't gonna go all the way through high school and do it the normal way. And I told dad, I'm like, I just want to go to work. Like I want to race. I want to be able to be gone to race, and I want to make a living when I'm at home. Right. So this was 12 years old. And dad's like, done. Like he's like, you're gonna get it. So he told mom that was the way it was gonna go. And she asked me the day before school was starting. I remember I was actually in a swimming pool, and she said, are you okay with this? Your friends are going to school tomorrow and they're going to be hanging out and having fun, and you're going to be at the shop at 9 o'clock, which I did fortunately not have to start till 9, but I did school from 7 to 9. Right. So she's like, you're going to do school from 7 to 9. You're going to go to the shop, you're going to work, and you're going to do school after work. And I said, that's what I want. Right. Like not one bit of hesitation. So it was because I was in a position to be able to go and see work be done by other people, work myself. And I did. Obviously, you can't have a 12-year-old on payroll, but they did give me money for my time,
Well, an
right?
allowance.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So they did that, and I want people to know that that was an opportunity for me because of the position I was in. There's
Mhm.
not many people that are fortunate enough to be in that position. And if you have to go the normal route of school and you go to college, I 100% support that too. Like that's the way a lot of people have to make it. I just would advise and suggest I never went to do anything for fun, right? The
Mhm.
only thing I've done for fun my entire life is race.
Mhm.
And when you look at college, don't look at it for fun. Like that's the biggest mistake I see people and I see kids make. And I have a niece that's 14, turning 15 this year. And it's like, I'm going to beat it into her. Like she's going to understand that if she goes to college, it's to make a living. It's not to go have a good time. Like she will understand that. And I wish everybody would look at it that way, because there's some sayings out there: work hard in your 20s, enjoy your 30s. Okay. Goof off in your 20s, work hard in your 30s, right?
Mhm.
You can choose that. That is very real, right? And you can always have a balance of both, but you have to make sure you understand that nothing's free, nothing's given, and nothing's ever earned and owned, right? It's every day you have to get it, right? Like it doesn't stop. It doesn't matter how successful you are, how successful you get. There's always somebody that's more successful and
Mhm.
somebody that's done it better. That's one thing I have learned in my life. Every time I get to where I think I want to be, I'm like, man, I'm further away than I was. Like it just never you get there. It just is so hard. And I feel like a lot of the common mistake is, well, let me go have fun in college because I may have to work till I'm 62 to get retirement, right? And it's like, I want to enjoy college. Well, I really feel like if more people looked at it the opposite way, do not build up debt to have fun,
Mhm.
right? Like if you're going to go in debt, do it to start your own little business, or, you know, get the actual education that you need to do the profession that you want to do, right?
Because as
That's
we established, if you're
yeah.
doing what you love, you're gonna have fun doing it.
Exactly, and you don't feel like you work. If you want to be a doctor, by all means, borrow the money to go to school and be a doctor, and
Mhm.
you will enjoy every day of your life, right?
Mhm.
Like obviously in the doctor profession, it's hard because things happen that you don't want to happen, but that's people choose that, and that's awesome, right? So
Mhm.
I just feel like people should know going into kids should know going into college and stuff that it shouldn't have a good time when it's available, but don't look at it to have fun, because you're not going to have fun when you get out. And that's like a common perception that I think needs to be talked about more.
Mhm. And you saying too, um, you always you never get to a point. There's always a further point to get to. I think I agree with that, but
Yes.
not everybody thinks that way, and I think that that is a testament to how you and Jessica both think, and that's this concept of always being able to learn something. You're never gonna know it all.
No.
You may reach the top of this level of business in this area, but guess what? There's a whole different market of business over here
Absolutely.
that there's something to learn about. So, and that's a whole different, avenue we could delve down. But I just think that's something that people should take away from even just listening to you talk about business is that way of thinking doesn't just come naturally. That comes with the concept of always wanting to learn. But you mentioning too, you said the decision to walk away from traditional school and take more of a business route. You said you never regretted it for a
No,
second.
not even.
Seems to be a theme. I was talking with you and Jessica a minute ago about some of the business decisions y'all had made, and you both said I don't regret it at all. It was maybe a little scary at the time, but I don't regret it. I read you saying the same thing in a lot of articles not too many months ago when a lot of people were reflecting on the charter deal. I don't regret it. Is that because these business deals worked out? Where does that I don't regret it thought process come from? And have you made business decisions that you
Yeah.
do regret?
So, I think that comes from people know I'm a real racer, right? They know I'm
Mm-hmm.
passionate, and they know as well as I do that my only full-time opportunity in Cup was when I owned the charter. Like that's over, right? Like I'm 41 years old. yes, I can pay to run Cup full time if I want. Not going to do that, right? And it's like they know, the people that know me know how much I love the sport,
Mm-hmm.
and they know how much the sport's my family, right? And it's like they know, and I'm talking about people that own teams, people that run teams, fans, everybody know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, wow, it's going to hurt. Like they know that that's not an easy thing. And I 100% do not regret it because I wanted to set out with Jessica and prove that we could be successful on the business side. And the business to me was always first, racing was second, right? And by making the deal we made with the charter, we forever closed the chapter on it was successful, right? I still get to drive. And now what I want people to know is when I go to Atlanta, when I go to Daytona, when I go to Talladega, I pick those tracks because I'm tired of running around 30th and a lap down or 5 laps down or whatever. Those tracks we compete. We ran
Mm-hmm.
22nd in Atlanta and we had a bad day. We have a lot of things we can make better on our team. And the race didn't flow the way we wanted. We had issues and we had a stupid failure that makes me mad that I don't even want to talk about. And it's like we still finished 22nd as a little team with 3 full-time people, right? That's why we don't regret the decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the business is forever successful, that chapter of our life. And then now when I race, I have a better chance to perform for the people that support me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think people are, a lot of times are like, do you regret it? And it's like, no, not for a second. We made all these decisions. Now, if I had truly regretted it, if it would have been the wrong decision, I would have still done it because it closes that chapter.
Mm.
But everything around it, the way it's worked out and the way we knew it was going to work out, it it not 1 second, not even for 10 seconds. Like it's not been a look back at all. The hardest part has been, we get to go. We went to Phoenix this weekend and it's like, wow, like we're usually out on the West Coast right now. I'd usually be in Vegas right now, like
Yeah.
hanging out with who knows who, right? Like you get to the Cosmo and then all the driver, you walk down, it's like nobody talks, nobody texts. You just leave your room at 8 o'clock and you go down and you find people, right?
Yep.
Like that's the life. And it's we don't have that. We're in North Carolina right now about to, which we are going on a family vacation here in about 24 hours. So that's
So you're
exciting.
all right. You're
Yeah,
doing
we're
okay.
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 But the point is it's like the life that we love so much, it changed drastically.
Yeah.
And it's been tough, but never for a second did we regret anything.
Well, that's to that point. I wondered actually because I miss seeing you guys
Yeah.
at the racetrack, and I know you. I mean, you've said it numerous times. You're a racer. Like that is
Mhm.
where you want to be. That's where you've been since you were 2.5.
Yep.
That had to have been a huge adjustment to not be there. Because this year, I guess, has been the most that you've been away from the racetrack,
Last year
especially in the Cup
too.
Series,
Yeah.
your whole life, really, your whole career. How has that adjustment been now that we're past kind of the honeymoon phase of, ooh, being able to sleep in on the weekends? Now
Yeah.
that it's more of the norm.
Jessica and I have never enjoyed sleeping in. We'd rather
You
we'd
don't
rather have
strike me as
something to
two that
do.
would.
We're just not.
Yeah.
I think you get plenty of sleep when you're dead. That's truthfully
Yeah.
just the way I look at life. So, Jessica does enjoy her sleep, but not sleeping in. She goes to bed so she can get up early and get something done.
You get to work.
It's to be truthful, the adjustment's not over. Like we are very much a year and 3 months into this or something. We have not adjusted. We are
Hmm.
still working on that. It's not something that can happen overnight. And it's a big change in lifestyle when you're gone 40 weeks a year for one job, right? That's also your passion that you love, so it doesn't feel like a job. And then all of a sudden you literally wake up and nobody calls your phone because thankfully there's no problems. But when you're used to problems for 14 years straight,
Hmm.
not counting the business we had before that, it's like, okay, well, this is just odd, right? And
Hmm.
it's what you want to work towards, but it is a shift. And I have no problem saying that we have not adjusted completely. Like
Hmm.
it's something we're still working through and figuring out and making sure that we do what we want to do next. And that's where our next business adventure with the coaster come in, right? It's like we wanted to take a certain amount of what we had to work with capital wise and take a chance on an area that we haven't ever been in, that we'd always thought about and had wanted to. And it's like, you know, we thought we'll try this. So we've risked that. Now we've kind of replaced some of the, the entertainment, fun, scary side of what we did with racing. It's a little bit with the coaster. It's not near as much or near as hard as it was with what we did with racing, but
Fills that
it's
void a little bit.
it does,
Yeah.
and it's something it's fun to look forward to, and we've got a good group of people that we're partners with over there, and it's we're enjoying that. So, you know, that's part of what we've done, but it's without a doubt we're still adjusting to not being full-time racers, and I'm fine. Like I said, I'm so thankful for my years of getting to run 30th, right? Because I'll be perfectly clear, 30th in the Cup Series is extremely difficult.
Yep.
Anybody that thinks it's not, I invite them to watch data anytime they want, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
is truly, I have so much respect for the Cup drivers and the Cup field and all their, like the teams, the people. It is such a level of perfection for such a long amount of time, for so many weeks out of the year. It is truly unparalleled by anything else on this planet, in my opinion, because of the length of our season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I had I've had 160 cup starts, and I've got 3 top 10s, I think. Maybe it's only two. Um, Other than that, it's been mainly 30. I've had 22nd or 21st or 19th, but it's all off attrition, right? Like I never earned 19th spot. Okay. Like I earned it if you want to look at it in the sense that, oh, I didn't wreck, right? Like I did make it through. I did finish the race. We put together a solid car. There's many things that we did. You could say we earned it. But in my opinion, I always only ever looked at raw speed, right? Like when we assess our team or me as a driver, I always look at raw speed. And in the next gen era, we were a 35th or 36th place chartered car every week. Like we very rarely, every now and then I would qualify ahead of 4 or 5 people, but we very rarely did better than that. And our race pace was always 35th to 36th on average. And now, even though the Delta in the next gen car was many times less than a couple of tenths, it's still, you're there, right? So my point is, I do not miss running 30th in the Cup Series at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not the part I miss. I miss going to the track, seeing the people, and working for something better in racing. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I miss. So we've shifted that and figured out a way to try to have that drive again on the racing side, and it comes from, I feel like there's a huge void where with the next gen era, there's not a way to develop a winning Xfinity or Truck Series driver to get them ready for a top tier cup ride that they're going to be destined to be in the correct way now, because Xfinity and Cup could not be more different.
Right.
Like driving wise, it is literally like driving a motorcycle or a four wheeler. Like there's not one thing that's the same, not even coming to pit road, right? Like it is not the same. Trucks, the edginess of a truck with the amount of downforce they have, you have to keep them super free. They are low on horsepower. You have to keep them super on edge to be quick with them, especially at the mile and a half. And I feel like that transfers over a little bit to the cup car, but still, the cup car is still on an island of its own. So we feel like with our established cup team, because when we sold the charter, we only sold the charter. We bought
Mm-hmm.
out Matt Tiff's side of the business, and we own all the cars. We have $5 million worth of infrastructure sitting there. We own the building, we own the haulers, we own everything, all the equipment, everything you need to run a cup team full time. We still own, right? So we feel like we're trying to fill that void where we have a solid 35th or 36th place or an unchartered open car, right? That can come to the track and be, within a couple tenths of the next car, right? And provide a spot for a winning truck or Xfinity driver that is going to be heading to winning on Sunday in Cup. Give them a 10 race deal or a 5 race deal while they're trying to run, and win a championship in trucks or Xfinity. They can come over and get their feet wet in the Cup Series, driving a Cup car that they have no pressure driving. It's
Mm-hmm.
Live Fast Motorsports. We all know we're, like I said, 35th, 36th on speed right now at most of your tracks, and let them get used to all of the things that goes on in a cup race, mainly the mental side. Like it's the mental side of a cup race, the amount of hours that you have to maintain qualifying pace in your mind and with your body. is just out of this world, right? And it's something you don't feel in Xfinity, you don't feel it in truck. And I feel like when you have somebody that's talented enough to win an Xfinity or truck race, or do really well in a sport, maybe it's IndyCar, or maybe it's sports cars. Like, you don't know if they do well in that, and they need a spot to figure out how a cup race goes, how the systematic side of it, and really just the feeling of what it's like to try to drive that hard for the shortest race is what, 3 hours 15 minutes. I think we are those people. It's we have the infrastructure in place, we have the position to bring in a good partner and help a driver like that. And that's what our goal is now with the racing business, and try to keep our presence not only with me as a driver, but show that we're still driver coaching. We're still developing drivers just like we were. We're just doing it at a different level, and in a position that really only somebody like me that has driven 160 cup races. I've driven 60 in a next gen car, and has the experience. Not that I know how to win. I haven't proven that. I know how to win in super lates. Got over 100 wins. Got 22 championships. I can win go-karts. I want 300 wins, right? Fact is, I've never won in NASCAR. I've never even run competitively, at all, in my opinion, right? So that's not that's not the point. The point is, I know how to get the base to drivers that haven't been in a next gen car. I can speed up their learning curve tremendously. We have this thing going on right now that you talk about. I think Ty Gibbs is the next one for the, wins his first win, right?
Right.
And it's like a lot of your superstars are 100 plus wins before they get their first win. Once it
Right.
comes, seems to open up, right?
They
That's
always
how
say the first
hard.
one's the
And he
hardest. Yeah.
won his first Xfinity race, if that doesn't make my point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Like,
Right.
that is what Jessica and I want to do, is take a winning truck or Xfinity driver, get them 10 or 20 cup races in our cup car before they take over a Hendrick ride or a Gibbs ride, or an RCR ride, or so forth, Trackhouse. We want to do that. And when we do that, we want to see them win in under 75 races. And then we've done our job, right? That's
What a
our plan.
blessing to our sport.
Yeah.
I mean, what you said a second ago too, when you said you're in the only you were in the position to be able to do that, and you don't even take into account because you also have these race cars. I mean, and for you to have such a passion to be behind the wheel of a car yourself, and to have the means with which you've worked so hard to have for yourself, and to say, I have both these things and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to give somebody else a chance,
Yep.
speaks volumes to you and Jessica as well, as people. But beyond that, what a blessing to our sport, because the amount of talent that we could potentially miss out on if the only time a guy gets a chance to race in a cup car is if he can get a full-time ride in a charter.
Yep.
It's and we know seat time's everything. Like,
It is.
there's a learning curve. We got to give these guys and girls opportunities to learn. And everything you said is so exciting to even somebody like me, who is a fan but also covers the stories of the sport, because now this is new. These are new faces. These are new people that don't have the chances that some of these people have that we see in the Cup. I hate to call out Ty Gibbs, because he's a great kid, but at the end of the day, like a guy like Ty, who has the path laid out for him, we've heard his story. Now it's still growing and he's still an interesting person to follow, but for you to create a platform for a new face, a new story, a new talent, a new something to come into this world that seems to get more and more difficult to write your way into, is such a blessing for this sport. And it's really, really, really exciting and appreciated, really.
Well, it's something that we're passionate about. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we've always done, is do what we're passionate about. And that ends up working, right? And I know I have my story that I'm still writing as a driver. It's not over by no means. In my man, it's funny. Pakras asked me at a 2023 November Phoenix. He asked me because he knew we had sold, right? It had all been announced, and I think he was walking by me. I think it was a driver's meeting, and he's like, "So this is pretty much it for driving, right?" And I was like, "Bob, it's only just getting started." And he looked at me like, "What are you doing, man?" And I'm like, "Just wait."
Yeah,
So
you're like, please.
it's a long story, right? And it's definitely not written in full, but we're still trying as a driver, and I want to accomplish some things on track and that I haven't. And that's going to come through the truck series. It's going to come through the Xfinity series when I feel the time is right. Um, I just know that that story is not over, but I also know that I have a true passion for owning the team and helping a driver that won't get seat time the right way and making it to where they speed up that curve and become a superstar quicker, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's drivers in the series right now that I have that I have my eyes on,
Do you mind
and
if I ask who? I don't want to put you on the spot.
yeah,
I value
truthfully,
your
truthfully,
opinion.
one of them's Raja. I don't mind
Yeah.
saying it. Like I've talked to Raja 5 minutes in my life. I've done nothing. I've walked up and said, "Hey, man, like
Mm-hmm.
I support what you're doing. He's a good kid. The work ethic that kid puts in, I've been able to see it on the sidelines going to Hendrick and practicing because we have Hendrick pit crews. So I go down there and practice with them every now and then. And Raja's there driving the truck every week,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the kid puts in a ton of work to be good. His intelligence levels through the roof. His talent is great. Like he's very talented, which the problem with that's everybody is at this level,
Right.
right? It's like truthfully, you can have your opinions of different people, but they're all talented, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, he has the whole package, and it's like he's going to try to win a truck championship this year. He surely will move on to Xfinity and then the Cup, and I just would like the chance to to get him Cup starts while he's doing that in my car that he has no pressure,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're using him for an example, right? It could be
Yeah.
there's other drivers, right? But it's like watching him, I see that, it's not that I can teach Raja, it's that I can tell him what I did wrong, right? It's I can speed up the mistakes and I can put him in a car that there's no pressure. That he knows he's in a 36 place car, and if he goes and finishes 30th with it, he's more than succeeded for the weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to lay out is for people like him that he's definitely going to try to win a truck championship and spend more time in truck and Xfinity, but that way when it's his time to let's say take over let's say he takes over a Hendrick car, right? Just for conversation, that he doesn't wonder what's it like to run a 4.5 hour race, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's it like to be out there with the Cup guys? They already know him because he's been there in my car. They know what he's capable of because he's been there in my car, right?
Mm-hmm.
He will have the experience of feeling everything that you feel in a Cup race multiple times if we were to do something like this. And then when he gets in that winning car, all of those things that you have to learn are out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I feel like that's how you speed up that 100 race curve for your up and coming, superstars and Cup. And that's truthfully my passion right now is trying to figure out how to get Chevrolet and because I'm with Chevy and
Mm-hmm.
I want to go that route and trying to prove to them and that's something that I feel like we can do because I'm just in a unique spot again where I'm the only driver with 60 next gen starts that has proven I understand how to race, and I've been here a long time and I know the ins and outs of this sport as good as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here saying, "Hey, I want to speed this up and then be at home and watch them win on Sunday and say we had a part of that."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's what's in it for Jessica and I. And the fact that, we keep $5 million worth of infrastructure sitting around is something that people don't do, right? And we do. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what makes it possible.
You laying out too just the concept of being in a different level of equipment in the same field, to me, in an ability to relate, it makes me think about coming up as a broadcaster. And I know you'll love this because at New Smyrna is where I got my start in broadcasting. It was my first time on pit road during World Series of Asphalt. They're like, hey, it's like seat time. They're like, you got 9 nights. All right. By night 9, you have to have something figured out. Right.
Absolutely.
So they threw me in night 1, figuring out how to learn how to pit report. But that's a lower level of broadcasting, or I'm working with lower when I go out and do some of these modified races that we don't have internet or we don't have whatever because it's just short track local racing. What a blessing it's been to work in these environments, so when I do have these wonderful opportunities to work at a higher level, not only do you have the, like you said, just that that feeling of pride, and I've worked as hard as I've worked to get here. Nothing, was given to me. It's I really had to earn this. But two, that kind of safety net of heaven forbid internet goes out. That's all right. Been there, done that. If you're in a car that it's a top 5 qualifying car, but something happens and now this guy's got to start from the back. Well, they have experience running in this area of the field, or have experience navigating what it's like to
Yep.
try to have to move up. It's kind of that similar safety net that you get from also these humbling experiences of needing to learn.
Yep.
And I think we need more of that, and I think that the field would benefit from having more experience and more opportunity to make mistakes.
Yeah, just I know from our past and what we've done, we've worked with several drivers and done different things, and it was easy when you had the Gen 6 car. It wasn't easy. Okay, there was still, a lot of the people I'm talking about, they did take 100 races to win in a next gen or in a Gen 6 car, but it was, to me, it was, the gap was so much closer. I didn't really see that much need for it, right, between Xfinity and Truck and Cup,
Mhm.
as far as the equipment, the distance and competitiveness and how hard it is. It was still a big gap,
Right.
but it's, now with it, the separation the way it is, I just feel like your best way to develop your next superstar is through seat time in a, you know in a let's say a 30th or back situation, that they're focused on just learning the nuances of a cup race versus trying to go out and make sure they don't look bad if they're in a winning car. Which, let's be clear, you can win one weekend cup and finish 22nd the next week and then win the week after that. That is
Mhm.
truthfully how the cup series flows.
Mhm.
There is cars, they're 30th on pace. We could go back and look at stats, but it's like you could have a 30th place car and in 6 weeks you win, right? Like, it's just, that's how difficult it is. And I feel like a lot, sometimes these kids get thrown into a car that's got to win, and the car is capable of winning. The people are capable of winning. They have to adapt to it, and they have to learn things that they should have learned in a much less pressure situation that would have developed and sped up that curve,
Mhm.
quite a bit. So we'll see.
Well, in talking about your operations still at the track, and I will say, when I mentioned earlier missing seeing you guys around, I was so thrilled then. I know it wasn't necessarily, we've seen you in the car this year. Don't get me wrong. Thrilled to see you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But Jessica made quite a statement this weekend, and I'm going to let you brag on her because I know that she doesn't like to brag on herself. But seeing what you guys did this past weekend at Phoenix with Catherine
Yep.
Legg, and you talk about the team and what you want to do, but also using that car, that ride, that opportunity to bring eyes to the sport. You
Yes.
know what's good for the sport. You know how to push it forward. And your wife is a powerhouse behind the scenes when it comes to business. The shot of her and Catherine walking down Pit Road
I
together,
loved
it
it.
was like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is why I've missed the McLeods at the
No, I,
racetrack,
I screenshotted it on my phone. That's how much I liked it. I'm like,
Yes. Okay.
just moments that you look at to keep working, right?
Yes,
Like
and
that.
that's exactly what I mean, is because it's great to see your name back in the field, but when I think about what you guys do for racing, that's what I think about. I think about the cars you put out there, the people you put in them. So how did this opportunity to put Catherine back, or I should say in the Cup field for the first time
Yeah. Well,
back in NASCAR, come together?
we got the extremely early notice of 8 days before the
Oh, plenty
race,
of
right?
time. Yeah.
And it all comes, you got to tell the story of the business to understand the situation, right? And it's like, in this particular situation, her partners are focused on Cup. They do not want to sponsor Xfinity. They don't want to sponsor trucks. They don't want to sponsor ARCA. They want to see Catherine in a Cup car, right? And that's where you say, well, you look at her and her career before Phoenix, right? And you say, what has she done? What's she accomplished? And can she go do this and use this weekend to learn and move forward, right? So, knowing that the business side of it, the partners are dead set in a certain area, when we got a call, they said, hey, we've met with NASCAR, everything considered, with her making Indy 500 as many times as she had, and her 25 years of open wheel experience and 200 plus mile an hour. It's like, we feel like we want to give her a shot at Phoenix, but that's the only one we're going to let her, we're going to let her try that one for now and then see where it goes, right? So if we had got the notice a week earlier, she'd have been at Coda.
Mm.
right? We all wanted to do Coda. NASCAR wanted to take her to Coda. It just simply didn't work with the timing of the partners and the way the situation played out. There was no chance to take her to Coda first. So, looking at everything that they were trying to work towards, Phoenix was it. So when we got the call, we had before the hauler left, we had only five days when we knew, right?
Wow.
So that goes back to me saying we have the infrastructure sitting, right? We had a car that was close enough to be done together, ready to go. ECR's unbelievable. They literally finished an A engine, and gave it to us in that short amount of time. Like everybody stepped up. And the reason why they stepped up is because Catherine Legg has made the Indy 500 4 times.
Mhm.
Okay. She has carried an average speed of over 230 mile an hour. All right. That is something I've never done. And I can tell you right now, I would be nervous, right? Like
Yeah.
if you put me, I don't get nervous in a race car. I don't. It's the only time I actually feel normal, right? But if you put me out there and I'd love to try it, right? But just point blank, if I ever tell you I'm not nervous the first time I get in an Indy car, I would be, right? So it's seeing what she had accomplished, all of her vast experience in motorsports. When I got the call, I looked at that because I won't take just anybody. Okay. Like the Cup Series to me is an elite level of racing that should be accessed by only some. Right. Like you should have to earn your way in there. And I believe, look at me. Like I've never won, but I have earned my way. I have 350 some starts without incident. Right. I'm known for being one of the best at missing wrecks. Right. And I
Mhm.
hate being known for that. Really, I'd rather be known for being fast, but it's facts. We got to spit facts. Right. So, bottom line, I have the right to look at what she's done and say, you know what? She's earned a shot. Let's see what she can do. Right. And that's where, when we got the call asking us if we would do it, it was two questions. Would you help Catherine? Would you be willing to do it? Because she's never ran a cup race, right?
Right.
She's only run 5 Xfinity races, which I watched, by the way. I was driving for Johnny, in and out at that time. And I had known a little bit about, I never talked to her then, but I had watched what she had done. And she showed good car control and had speed at the road courses, and she did well, right? So I had that in my mind, and knowing everything she had done sports car wise made me feel like she had a feel for the next gen car already, because they have similar driving characteristics. They're not the same, but they're closer to getting ready for a cup car than running 15 Xfinity races. Bottom line, like the way the
Okay.
cars feel, you will never even come close to getting as close to knowing what a next gen car drives like through an Xfinity car as you will a GT3 car, right? So when all of that considered, the driver's side, me being an Indy fan when I was 5 years old and having so much respect for that sport, and them driving at Indy the way they do for 3 hours, it's crazy, right? So knowing that she did that, I signed off on the driver part of it within 5 minutes of me rethinking everything. Okay.
Mhm.
So that was done. The second part, can we put a car together that'll be competitive on pace as far as 36th? We
Right.
never, ever set out to be even 35th, right? Like, but just be close to 35th, right? Or in this situation, it's 37th.
Right.
So be close to 36th. Um, do we have the time? Can we get everything done? So I called around, figured everything out, and everybody said yes. Hendrick, ECR, everybody backed her. Right. So at that point, I was like, we're in. Let's go see. Right.
Mhm.
And Saturday could not have gone more perfectly. She pulled on the track 2.5, almost 3 seconds off her first lap. Second lap, 2 seconds ish. Um, by the time practice was over, there was less than, I think it was 3/10 delta to the next car. Right. Which, it's Live Fast Motorsports. Is it her or is it the car? Right? Like, we don't know. There's no
Right.
proof, right? So I was huge win Saturday after practice. Then she goes to qualify, and she qualifies two 2600s from a very good race car driver, right?
Mhm.
And then she is less than 4/10 from passing 6 cars, right? And all she said when she got back and we told her she ran a flat, she's like, I really should have tried, because she didn't try. She's like, I told her, I'm like, we don't have a backup. It was put together too quick.
Play
Let's just
safe.
go out there. Don't ride around, but I need 80%.
Yeah.
And, Landon Castle's the one that taught me that. He's like, dude, no backup, 80%. Always 80% in practice, whether you got a backup or not, because you always look like a hero when you go to qualifying, you pick up
That's what I
speed.
was gonna
And
say.
I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? That's very good advice. So he
Yeah.
told me that. 10, 15 years ago. So
Okay.
anyway, a quick side story. But bottom line, I told her, I said, Landon always told me this. And I said, it's something that paid off for me a lot throughout my career. Give me 80% in qualifying, right? And whoever says whatever, I could care less, right? Like, to just, I've seen enough in practice. You had car control, you left lanes for when the faster guys are coming by you. You didn't shock anyone. We have no complaints from the spotters tower. Everything looked good after practice, right? So we get into the qualifying. She runs a 28 flat. The next car's within 2 tenths, 4 tenths to get in some serious, 4 or 5 spots with a live fast car. Okay, without any support, with 5 days. I don't want to say without any support. Chevrolet helped us. Hendrick helped us. ECR helped us. The pit crew side of Hendrick.
Mm-hmm.
We had support,
Sure.
but
Mechanically, a
yeah,
true
like
live
at the
fast
track, it
car.
was on live
Yeah.
fast, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we had her there. And when she ran the flat and she was that close, I was like, Catherine, you'll be fine. It was like, tomorrow we just need to have a solid day. You don't need to pass anyone. You just need to run laps and see what it's like to have to drive a cup car for 3.5 hours, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, we left Saturday happy as could be. Like, it couldn't have went better, in my opinion. And Saturday night, she spoke with a big team. They told her that one of the drivers wanted to help her, and he saw some stuff, and he's like, "Hey, talk to your team about this." So she brought it to us. We looked it up, ran it on sim. Our setup showed that it could be correct what they were saying, so we made an adjustment before the race. I want to take full responsibility for that. I have learned 1,000 times over, when you have a car that's decent, don't mess with it until you
Yeah.
have time to try it, right? And it slipped. I made a mistake. I let the guys change it.
Oh.
And bottom line, that's why she was so far off the first couple laps until she spun. The in cup cars you have stops, and we were on one to get drive. They said we were on it a little too hard. We backed off of it some, and she ends up spinning out. So,
Mm-hmm.
it us making a change, 100% my fault. Um, that's what set her back. And I think when that happened, she got so, honestly, I wouldn't say nervous, because she's not a nervous person. She's such a professional. You can tell she's got a quarter of a century in race cars.
Mm-hmm.
She's been through some of the most horrific crashes you could imagine. She's just a true racing veteran. Forget the woman, right? She just is that. And I don't think she was nervous. I think she was concerned because she's there to get approval, right? And she spins inside of 5 laps because we made a bad change. So I tried to help her on the radio, tried to help her know that, it was on us. I told her that, try to get her confidence back. But you have to understand the stage you're on and where you're at. It's almost impossible to get it back. She ended up working with the crew chief. We got the speed back in the car. She was running with whatever the last place car was at that time in front of her. She was running the same times. And even at points, she would run like a 28th place time or 25th place time, even though she was laps down. All of that was good. Everything was fine. Really just working on finishing out the race.
Mm-hmm.
And she got down on the apron off of two, got a little bit of stuff on her tires, got a little too low. Um, Barry was coming by on the top, and she saw that she was too close to him too late, and she spun herself. And when she spun, she got hit. And unfortunately, the last thing we want to do is affect a lead lap car as a team,
Yeah.
right? And obviously, she doesn't want us as a driver either. And
I'm sure
I,
mentally seeing that these are the leaders, it was
yeah,
probably
what's a lot, right?
yeah,
Like, that's part of learning it, right?
exactly.
And I feel like, you know, I, I don't, I hate that we affected Justin's day, Suarez. Thankfully, Barry didn't get any damage from it. Still had a great day. But that's stuff I look at that I don't want that happening. Like, to me, that situation shouldn't happen. Like, we gotta do better, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
bottom line, I talked to her after the race. She accepted responsibility for it instantly. Said this happened, right? And we had some seat changes before the race that altered the way she could see out of the car for safety, and it definitely affected. This is still on us 100%,
Mm-hmm.
but want everybody to know the true story. It affected the way that she could see out the right side of the car. And bottom line, it comes from having 5 days to prep and not being in the right position getting there when it comes to the seat fitment side. So with all of that together, she made a mistake, right? And she luckily didn't take Barry out, but she did take Suarez out. She felt horrible about it. talked to me. She said, I want to know what you think. And I flat told her what happened with Barry. It can't happen. Like at this level, you can never make a mistake with your car when you're not competing for position,
Mm-hmm.
right? If she was racing Barry and she did that, wouldn't feel bad at all.
It's racing
That's
you.
racing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a lap down or four, I think she was 3 or 4 down at that point, and you're just trying to get your approval, you simply can't, right? So it's, she didn't back away or disagree. She said, do you have his number? Right. And I was like, more respect. Right.
Yeah.
So she handled it as good as she could. Obviously, it was a bad situation at that point. Um, the Cup Series is a lot. And she did an awesome job for practice qualifying. We got scrambled a little bit with the setup changes. It caused her to have issues, and then kind of set our day down for some failure, right? So anyway, overall, very, very thankful to get the opportunity to work with her. She is a true racer. She is a
Mm-hmm.
hardcore racer. She loves racing, or she wouldn't be trying this at 44 years old. Like that
Mm-hmm.
says the story right there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
bottom line, she deserves another shot to work her way into gaining the respect of all the drivers, and making sure they know that she knows where her car is at, and that she won't make the mistake she made with Barry again. And I know that she could go to a road course and do well. Like I mean, it's the Cup Series. Maybe she runs 35th, maybe she runs 15th. I don't know.
You
I'm
never
just
know.
saying she deserves to be at that level on a road course, hands down. Like
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt, I would do it.
Well, and seeing what she did on Sunday, but I don't think by any means anyone would watch what she did on Sunday, not even knowing all of the changes that were made, and look at that as anything but success to come in here and never have done this before, make a debut at Phoenix with so many different things, the option tire. There's just so much going on in this race on top of not having any experience and then having 8 days to prep. And then you hear all of the changes and all of that. But what I see is that she got one opportunity, and look at what she was able to learn in all of that. It's like what
Yeah,
we talked about in putting these drivers in these cars. She now knows what it's like to have practiced and qualified in one setup and hop in and take the green in another, or
absolutely.
have a minor change to your seat, or even like you said, the mental pacing of spinning out early and then having to get back in the groove and get back in the race. She's learned that, and then she's also learned I call it the touch the hot stove mistake. Like you do it once and you have to do it once to know that can't happen.
Right.
So in one race, you guys have given her an opportunity to learn so much and overcome adversity, and it really what I think an incredibly successful weekend and
Yeah.
something really cool for our
Well,
sport.
for me, if we hadn't affected Suarez's day, I would have considered it a successful weekend. The
That's
spin at the beginning, I could care less. Like it's just part of learning. And it wasn't even her fault. It was on us, right? Like it just is what it is. I just, when for us, for Jessica and I, and Catherine, right? I want to speak for her. When you affect another team's day, you can't feel good about that, and she doesn't. I can tell
mm-hmm,
you, like all the things she did right are all erased in her mind by the one thing that she did wrong. And I agree with that, because this is the Cup Series. You shouldn't be able to look at 9 positives and not pay attention to the 10th negative, or the first negative,
mm-hmm,
because you did 9 things right. At this level, when you put this much scrutiny on yourself and you decide to be on this stage, you should be a 10 of 10, right? Like
mm-hmm,
that's the way I look at it. And not from speed, but I'm talking about the way you handle a race, the way you affect other racers, the way you carry yourself throughout the day. You have to make sure that you are a 10 of 10 to be racing in Cup.
mm-hmm,
That's the way I look at it. So maybe I'm tough, right? But that's the way I put that pressure on myself. And that's one thing I enjoy about being a driver is, yes, I've got 30th place finishes out, you know what, but it's been done the respectful way the entire time I've been there.
mm-hmm,
There's not one driver in the Cup Series that's scared to race me, right? And when I get to drive up in the draft, or I get up a little bit at Atlanta, I get up like mid pack, nobody's scared to be around me, right? And
mm-hmm,
that's how you earn that. And that's what I want her to have. And she can have that. She is that driver. She
mm-hmm,
is good enough to do that. It just, she needs experience. And I feel like for her, the road courses for her make the most sense. The ovals are obviously a learning curve because she doesn't have a ton of experience at it, but she can handle them too. It's just, I feel like she's gonna be able to achieve what she wants by going to the road courses and building up that respect and carrying herself through a whole cup race. And if we didn't have the situation with Suarez there at the end and taking him out, I would have considered it 100% successful weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Everything would have been perfect in my mind. So very, very close, but you have to accept that scrutiny when you want to be on the national top stage, right?
Something you said in that speaks just wonders to who you are as a person. And I've said it so many times, the humility that you and Jessica have is unreal, because you hear the way that you guys talk, and so much of what you're saying, I'm like, do you even realize how great that what you were saying is? Because that, when you said you could drive around any driver in the field and no one is scared to drive around you, that's you being confident in your
Facts.
ability to,
Yeah.
right, and your experience and your ability to handle a race car. But what I hear beyond that, and I can attest to this, I've never met a single person in the field, driver, on a box, on a crew, anybody that has anything but wonderful things to say about you, just from a respect level on and off the racetrack. And that, to me, when you say that there's drivers that don't ever, no driver feels scared to race around you, that goes so much further than just your ability to handle a race car. That's a testament to who you are as a person, and the respect that you've gathered in the field, and the kindness that you've shown to people, and the way that they know you. And there's a lot of guys that could walk away from your career. I don't even say retire, because you're not doing that, you're not walking away by any means, but at the end of a career, there's a lot of guys that might say, I've won a ton of races, but I pissed a lot of people off, and yeah, I don't care, and whatever. I don't, the legacy I left, hate me or love me or whatever. But you don't have any of that animosity towards you in the slightest bit. And that, to me, speaks so much more than any number in a wins column.
Well, and part of that's because I haven't been as successful as I want to be. That's one reason it's that way, right? But I will say, you know, when I look at my career as a driver, the biggest win I have or could ever have, if I won, let's say I lucked up and won a Daytona, right, or an Atlanta in the Cup Series, which I know how unrealistic that is, but I will state I'm still trying. Okay,
I don't think it's
so
unrealistic at all,
it's
BJ.
it's very unrealistic when you look at
Burton.
the facts, but but I don't mind saying that I dream because it's the truth, right? So, and that's what other people should do. But the biggest win I have as a driver is the support. I don't even want to say respect because they do, okay? But it sounds, I would rather say support I have from crew chiefs, drivers, owners, fans, everybody that loves our sport. They support what I'm trying to do. Whether maybe they don't individually like me. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they support the story. They support the effort. They do respect how hard I've worked to do what we've done. And if I won a Daytona or even 10 races, it would never mean more winning those races than the amount of support I've been shown throughout my career in the garage by what we've worked hard to earn. That
Mm-hmm.
is more valuable than anything. You cannot buy it, okay? And you cannot win it. You have to earn it. And that is something we have right now, and it means more to me than anything else. So, we'll see if we can get fast enough on the track to piss somebody off. And I can tell you right now, I love the finish of Coda, right? Like it was a real racing finish. William Byron could have won that race if he wanted to drive like a lot of people have decided that you can drive right now. Like that's the thing I hate most about not being up in the top five in Xfinity Trucker Cup is I would love the chance to level the field and make it to where people understand that you don't just run over somebody to win a race.
Yep.
If I'm in that position ever, I will make that point, and
Mm-hmm.
I will never crash somebody to win. I would rather finish second 100 times at playoffs. I always hear, well, you got to make the playoffs. You got to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not skinny, right? Like I don't need food money. I don't have to wreck nobody to make the playoffs. I don't care what anyone tells me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the way these kids should be thinking, right? Like they should say, instead of knocking somebody, I'm not even going to use any particular people because so many people do it now, but it's like, oh, I can reach him. He's got a lift for the corner. Let me go run over him and try to win the race. I'm so sick of seeing that in NASCAR. I would love the chance, my only chance. Let's say I get a chance to win a truck race and I'm running second close to the leader. I would never crash them to win a truck race or to win a cup race or to make the playoffs. I just don't live that way,
Mhm.
right? And I think other people should do that, and we should settle it, and it should go back to like the finish of Coda. That
Mhm.
was one of the most respectful races between Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, William Byron. Like, it was rubbing, it was racing, it was getting stuff done, being respectful, and teaching the kids that are starting to race somewhere around the country right now in a go-kart that you shouldn't just run over somebody to win a race. Like,
Mhm.
that's not winning. There's no respect in that. There is nothing. I don't have 1 ounce of any kind of acceptance of that. Like,
Right.
I literally cannot stand it, and I want to see it. I want to see it straightened out. And I feel like with what William, showed at Coda, and the fact that, Christopher was faster and he won the
Mhm.
race, and we kept it that way with several corners he could have wrecked him, and Kyle drove his butt off to hold Christopher off. Like, that was an impressive drive, right?
Mhm.
Just not enough time. Caution can come out. Kyle wins, right? It's like
Right.
Tyler Reddick could have messed some stuff up there too. Didn't, right?
Mhm.
It's like, and I want to see that racing more every week, because that's the racing fans truly enjoy. If you want a demolition derby, let's start a demolition derby series. I'll wreck anybody. Like, I don't mind. Like,
Right.
I can handle it. Anybody
Mhm.
gets mad, I can handle that too, right? It's like, I would do it, but that's not our sport. That's not our racing, and that's not the way it should be done. And I hope we keep going down the road of proving that, you know what, I'm going to give up this win because I could knock you out of the way, like everybody else has said, but we're gonna do it the right way. There's a difference. If you free somebody up on exit of a corner and get by them, I see that as racing.
Mhm.
If you hit somebody on entry and knock them out of the way, I see that as no talent and no respect. And trust me, it wouldn't work if I was up there. Like, I am perfectly happy to go to the hospital. I'm perfectly happy to go to lunch. I don't care. Get out of my car. It doesn't matter. I cannot handle that stuff.
Mhm.
Drives me nuts.
And to your point, that finish Dakota, we're sitting here talking about it. It was exciting.
Yes.
People are talking about it. You don't have to go wreck race
No.
cars to get talked about.
No.
Go to your point. Run this race at this level, the highest level of stock car racing, the way that it should be run. And that is how you earn respect from your competitors, fans, everybody. It's
Absolutely.
not
And
by
that,
going out there and winning races.
going back to, the Catherine situation, if she was racing Barry for position and spun herself off of him, or even wrecked him or wrecked Suarez, I'd have zero issue. I wouldn't mind the situation at all, because she's trying. People make mistakes.
Mhm.
People wreck every weekend, right? You're still going to have wrecks. You're still going to have entertainment. It's just going to be done from a respectful way. And more importantly, we're teaching the kids that are starting to race, that will hopefully be in the Cup Series one day, in a small town in California or a small town in Florida, or just a regular regional racetrack. This is how you race. This is
Mhm.
true respect. This is true talent, right? This is how you get it done. You don't just, dive bomb somebody because they lift and you can run over them. And I want to say something else too. Like, I'm thankful that NASCAR doesn't have any kind of judgment over, well, he wrecked him on the last lap, so this guy wins now. Like that, I can't stand that stuff. Like, local tracks need to get that figured out too, but it's like NASCAR's got it right. Let the drivers sort it out. The
Mhm.
drivers need to sort it out. Like, and we need to get back to the respectful side of it. And I think, my opinion, William said, "Hey, I'm willing to be the first one that could have won this race, and let's all try to drive more respectful and see if we can go down this road." So,
Mhm.
and it's just something that, if it goes that way, you'll see such a level of respect for the sport grow with the fans, not just the drivers. It is hard to follow something and enjoy it truly if you know that so and so can just change the outcome of the race because there's no repercussions for it. And like I said, NASCAR can't change their side. They
Mhm.
need to keep it the way it is. The drivers need to settle it.
Mhm. Not to switch up on you too much, but have you ever been in a fight at the racetrack?
No, no, I've been hit. I got hit in super lates a couple times.
You didn't hit back?
No, I didn't. To me, I don't want to go to jail. Like, I'm not. I know.
You're like
Yeah,
the guy in the Affliction t-shirt and
yeah.
in studded boots is going to be the one that's taken away in
Well, the
this, okay?
problem is, like, I don't. I was taught at a very young age, if you need to defend yourself, right? If you're
Yes.
scared for your life, defend yourself. I've been hit by a guy that was 6 foot. He was probably 6'4", and I was 17 years old at the time. I was probably 6 foot. I was probably 5'11", 5'10". I was a big guy. But bottom line, he hit me, and I was just like, okay, right? Like, I don't. My dad always told me, he's like, son, you pick up an engine block at 9 years old and carry it across the shop. You are strong as hell. Like, you feel like a brick when somebody hugs you. You're just like, I'm 250 pounds right now. I need to be like 225, but I am a big guy for NASCAR, for drivers. To be
Yeah,
clear, these
it's
pit crew members,
solid.
any pit crew member gets mad at me, I'm running as fast as I can. Please don't hurt me, sir. Okay, like
Yeah.
seriously.
But
But
Justin Haley isn't
yeah,
giving
but
you
well,
any
and I love
yeah.
Justin. That
No, I love
Justin,
Justin too. That's
Justin,
why I
yeah,
pick on him.
Justin
Yeah.
could slap me and I would just laugh at him.
Yeah.
Okay, like I
Yeah.
would never hurt him because he's such a cool kid. And I'm like, if he
He's
got
great.
mad, I'd just be like, dude, you need to think about what you're really doing right now.
And we say Justin because he's another kid in the field that would also never
Yeah.
get in a fight on pit
No,
road. You
no,
know, like
no.
he's another
So,
one that you'll
but
would
it's
never.
like I can say I was hit by someone that was 6'4", scary looking. Most people would be scared to death. I got hit by another guy that was probably 6'2", 250. I ate them both, and I was like, I don't want to hurt them, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've never hurt another human, right? And I'm like, I know if I get a hold of them, like I may get beat, right? Like, I'm not saying I can win the fight, but I'm telling you, we're both going to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get me a piece, and it's not going to be fun. So I don't want to go to the hospital and then wake up with a cuff to the bed. So I'm like, I will, and you mess with my wife, you mess with one of my dogs, I'm probably going to die. That's
Different
just who I
story.
am. I will. It'll shut down, and whatever I got, you're going to get.
Yeah.
But
That's no
when
longer
it
BJ. That's
when it
Burton. That's Burton
yeah,
comes
I don't know
out.
what it is, but I can tell you it's not. I don't want to see it, and it's
Okay.
me, right? So me as a race car driver, and as you know, if you hit me and I'm not threatened for my life, I'm just gonna walk off and say, think about it, really. Like, if you hit me and manage to get me to start getting mad, then it's a different situation if I'm scared. If you put
Mm-hmm.
me in a situation where I have to defend my life, then I would absolutely fight, and I'm not going to fight fair. There is no such thing as a fair fight.
That's the most badass response though. And I know it's coming from a place of like genuine, like, this isn't worth my time and kindness, but also it's kind of funny to think that you're like, dude, think about someone hitting you and you being like, like, I'm not
Well, one of
doing
them
this
hit me.
right
I was
now.
strapped.
I'm gonna hurt
Yeah.
you. You're gonna hurt me. Like, imagine how dumb that guy feels when he just hit you, and you're like, really?
He hit me 4 or 5 times in the head, and I was still strapped in and no helmet. And I mean, it hurt, but it was like he didn't get nothing. And then one of my guys grabbed him and threw him off, and I jumped out, and I'm like, so I jump on him and I do win. And I still didn't think I'd win. Like, he was a badass, right? So it's like I was fortunate one of my guys got him off of me because, I had some people with me that know how to fight. And it was, I guess he got me, I got him off of me, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm
You're like, look, you're getting
yeah,
a better assessment
yeah,
of him. Like, you
yeah.
know
I'm
what?
like,
Maybe
no,
not.
this guy's rank, right?
Maybe
So,
not.
anyway, what ultimately stopped it, like I said, is if I did win, you don't win.
Yeah.
That's what is hard to understand when you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
Or you're even a teenager, mid-20s. It's like you go get in a fight. Well, if it's not for profession and you're getting paid, what do you win? Both people are definitely hurt some, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you get a lucky one shot knockout, right? Which is very rare in a real fight. It's like you just don't. What do you get? Nothing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and when you move to race car drivers fighting, right? It's like none of them are trained, not yet. But like I said, I was in some of those meetings with the drivers, and I always said we need to make sure you can't fight. Like, this should not be allowed in the Cup Series. It shouldn't be allowed in Xfinity. It should be allowed in regional tracks. Like a
I'd
zero,
argue they can't fight
yeah,
today.
a zero fighting policy is my opinion, because if you allow race car drivers to fight, they'll start training, which some of them have,
Yeah.
right? Some of them have started grappling, some of them have started boxing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, the last thing you want is race car drivers training as fighters, really learning how to fight, and then they can't race for 6 weeks because they got a cracked eye socket, right?
Right.
Like,
Or you got a pit road
yeah,
full of post-race adrenaline and a
yeah.
bunch of guys who have been
It's like
training in an MMA ring all
well,
week.
that's the thing. That's what
That's
happened.
what you want.
I got access to MMA. I could go train right now. Can you imagine 225-pound me trained, right, by Forrest Griffin? Like, you don't, it shouldn't be in our sport, right? And
Right,
it's like,
right.
I always was a candidate for, you punch somebody, you're suspended for a week. Punch somebody twice, you're suspended 3 weeks. Just make it to where it is not allowed.
Mm,
Settle your business in the race car, because we all sign up to drive race cars and get killed. Every single one of us sign up for that. It doesn't get talked about. None of us, it's not going to happen to us, right? But we all sign up to get in a race car and die. Okay,
mm-hmm.
that's what we've accepted. I have not accepted to get out of my race car and get my ass beat, or send somebody to hospital, or worse, kill them.
That's
Right?
fair.
Like, that's
Yeah.
the truth. None of us have signed
Mm-hmm.
up for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, let us settle it in the car. No fighting allowed at all, and make sure that we don't get somebody hurt. That it should never happen, because I truthfully wouldn't know what to do if I hurt somebody. Right? And it's like
That's so
that.
fair.
It's the reality of it. And I think with all the stuff that we've seen, it's like one step further. So you get out of the car, and I'm friends with Noah, and I'm friends with a couple of them. I'm obviously friends with Ross. Like, I've seen, some of the punches be thrown and all that. I'm like, I can tell you right now, you could beat Noah Gregson into the ground, send him to the hospital, put him through 6 months of recovery, right? You could do the same to Ross Chastain, right? You won't change anything about him, right? Because they busted their ass to get here,
Mm-hmm.
right? They worked extremely hard. Every cup driver that's out there today, the journey that they've been on, you can't beat them up and change the way they drive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't understand. Like, you're gonna go beat him up because he crashed you this week. He's still gonna crash you next week if that's what he
Right.
wants to do.
Right.
Like, none of them, the amount of grit that cup drivers have, you can't beat anything into them. You're just not. It ain't gonna happen. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm like, I laugh when I see them go after one another. I'm like, it's not. Even though Noah will fight. Like, he don't play around. Ross threw a good punch
Yeah.
too, but it's like they you're not gonna learn anything.
Well, okay, and that's look, as a fan, I'm gonna say boo, boo. I
Yep.
hate that take as a fan, right? Because every fan wants to
Mhm.
see the drivers get out and have beef.
Only they want to, until Chandler Smith, okay, at Martinsville this last year, and I want to bring this up because nobody talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets out, he goes and talks to somebody. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember who he was mad at. He goes to talk to them, not saying he's in the wrong or they're in the wrong. Bottom line, if he had got pushed back, there was a car that drove by
Mm-hmm.
at probably 20 mile an hour to get lined up to, get ready if they're going to random or tech or whatever. When they were driving by, if he got pushed, it would have hurt him seriously bad. Right. And it's like,
Yes.
so that would have been a regular push and shove and match that fans enjoy seeing, that doesn't cause any damage usually. Right. And it's entertainment. I get that. I'm fine with it. We all, people watch wrestling, right? So whatever. You
Yeah.
like that, you like it. Reason I say it doesn't belong in our sport is, what if Chandler had got pushed back and he had fell and his head got hit by the front bumper of that car running 20 mile an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then the
Mm-hmm.
fans wouldn't be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to see somebody go to the hospital. And if you do, you don't belong here. Right? Like, that's
Right.
my problem with all of it, is we are not in a ring with a referee with physicals passed to fight. Like, there's a list of problems. And by the way, do you already have a concussion from the crash that you're mad about?
And by the way, what I was gonna from the switching from the boo fan side of things to the someone who works in the sport, have you ever seen pit road
Yeah.
after a race? Like, I'm looking at you like you're like, yeah, I have. Like, have you ever seen pit road after a race? I mean, it's crazy. Like, there's people are jumping the wall to go celebrate. Angry drivers are coming in to park it. Some people are going to tech. I mean, it's madness.
Madhouse.
The last thing you need now are people pushing and shoving each other. So
Yep.
it's interesting. That's a very interesting take. I will say too, from a comical standpoint, I'm with you on the banning fights, because we haven't seen any good ones lately. They keep their helmets on and they just come in full slapping at each other, and I'm like, boys, we're doing more hurt than we are.
You haven't seen good fights, because good fights, UFC fighters can win a match and then they spend 3 days in the hospital, right? That's why you don't see good fights in NASCAR, because hockey players, how many teeth do the hockey players have on a whole team? Real teeth,
I can
right?
probably
Like,
count
they
them.
get them
Yeah.
fixed, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, that's a real fight. They
Right.
take their gloves off and they fight, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's unreal. I'd never want to do it for a living, right? Like, it's just not for our sport. And I don't respect that at all. Not in the least little bit will I ever be happy when I see a fight. I will never see someone crash someone and they get out and, the person got crashed, goes over and punches the other one. I would just laugh at all of them. I'm like,
Mhm.
you're so far behind actually fixing anything. It's pointless.
This is a total rogue question, but I'm interested to hear your perspective on it. And if I'm putting you on the spot by any means,
I can handle it.
let me know.
Yeah.
Cut it off, whatever. Because I know he's also a friend of yours. But Corey LaJoy made a comment this season, a couple weeks ago now, that caused a lot of conversation, and I felt a certain way about it.
Yep.
But I do feel like maybe after talking to you, maybe you might give some perspective that gives me a more well-rounded thought process. So he talked about obviously he's out here putting his own pennies toward being able to race on Sundays, when he can, being able to fund himself in a way to race in the field on Sundays. He also turned down a ride in the trucks, a great ride at that, for full-time season. Yep. And he made a point to say that he would rather stack the pennies to race 25th, 30th, whatever it may be, on Sundays than have that full-time on Friday nights or whenever the trucks might be running. I don't really know how I thought about that statement, and I know that was coming from a place of respect toward the Cup Series because we just talk about that high level, but that rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, just in the sense of, isn't the goal to be in the car? I don't know. As a driver, explain kind of his thought process there to me.
I'm happy to talk about that because I am friends with Corey.
Yeah.
And I've been there with Corey. I've been around him, known him since 2010 and K&N. Okay. So I know his whole story, right? And I want to say the one thing that most people don't see or understand or get the realness of, because Corey doesn't talk about this side of him, right? Is you have a guy that worked from owning his own K&N team, winning races, to driving for, I believe, Petty's where he got his start, maybe. I think it was Petty. Regardless, getting a random start in a Cup car. I know he drove for BK at some point, different teams, small teams. Worked with Go Fast, drove for them, did an incredible job with Go Fast. They both did good things together. They were a really good team. Gets a chance to drive for Spire when they're starting, or a little bit after they started. Builds his way up, gets to the point where they're going to have, like, top 10 infrastructure, like definitely top 15. And once you're in that, you're in position to win. That's just a Cup Series for sure.
Right.
Gets there and then loses it, all within a 14-month period, right? No. And obviously needed more results on track. Things went a certain way. He lost it, right? Like, it's nobody's fault. It's just bottom line, he lost it, right?
It's business.
So, right.
It's the
right.
sport.
So
yeah.
I think that, the interview, he definitely said a couple of things. The fans in the stands comment about Truck or Xfinity. I don't agree with that at all, right? Like, there's truth that there's less following with Truck and Xfinity than Cup, right? But the way he said it was definitely wrong, right? And it's like, I believe that the point of that question where he said that wrong and he got a lot of criticism for it, in his head, he kind of rattled off that part to get to the point, and he didn't put real thought into what he said, because Corey's not that person. I can tell you, I know him, right? Like, he respects the Truck Series. He respects the Xfinity Series. He has a ton of respect for the Cup Series. He respects all motorsports. He is a real racer. He's done it the hard way, right? Like, those two comments don't erase the work he's put in for 14 years, right? And it went in one ear and out the other for me, because I know what he thinks. And I can say, though, it did, when I first heard it, I'm like, man, you shouldn't have said it like that, right? Like, because I know he doesn't mean it. If I thought he meant it, I wouldn't really, me and him would have to talk for a second, right?
Yeah.
So, bottom line, I think we have to look at the mental state of Corey, of doing that, getting to the high point, having a real shot, it not working out for whatever reason, his fault, their fault, doesn't matter. Okay. And then, he's losing it and he still wants to fight to come back. I've talked to Corey. At one point, he was okay driving a truck, right? This is months ago, right? Like, way, long time before decisions are made. And I can say, in relation to him, when we sold the charter, I'm like, truck ride, Xfinity, whatever, right? Like, I just want to drive, because I still want to drive, right? And obviously, we're doing the Cup stuff ourselves, but I can say without a doubt that I want to drive a Cup car in 30th more than I want to win 2 truck races. And it's got nothing to do with the Truck Series. The Truck Series is freaking awesome. Like, it is, I love it. It's one of the funnest ones to watch. To me, I like watching trucks, right? To just state facts. So it's like, it's nothing about that. I think for me, and what he didn't say, it's not really the Cup Series for me now. It's the next gen car. And this is where him and I probably differ a little bit. It probably is more about the top stage for him, and the highest level. I do I want to race with my people at the highest level because I've become so good of friends with all of them. And that happens when you get to run almost full time for 3 years. I want to race with those guys. Like that's who I want. No disrespect to anybody. It's just I want to race with them because that's who I've been racing with. The thing that's different for me is the next gen car is so fun to drive to me. It
Mm-hmm.
is the closest thing to a super late model that I've ever driven since I left super late models. And the advancement and the technologies in that car that we don't have in trucks and Xfinity, and the fact that it still has manufactured engines in it, not a spec engine like trucks, I just I enjoy that car. It has
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with, you know, I don't want to race trucks or Xfinity or whatever, but I truly just love the challenge of driving a next gen car. Even for my small team, if I'm going to run 35th or 36th all day, it is a blast just running 180 mile an hour. Even if everybody else is running 184, 183,
Mm-hmm.
it is fun running 180 mile an hour and trying not to crash on a next gen car. Because on a level of 1 to 10 of difficulty to drive, a next gen car is a 10, an Xfinity car is a 3, and a truck is a 2. That is just bottom line. They are that split in difficulty. It is the truth, right? And I'm not talking about road courses. I'm talking about downforce tracks. And it just is unreal the work it takes to race those things and not crash them. Um, so that's my opinion of I know he likes driving a next gen car. I know he wants to be at the top stage. I believe mentally he was in a position where he didn't answer that question correctly because that's not Corey.
Right.
Corey loves all the series and supports all the people, and everybody inside of it knows that. He's going through a tough time. Um, he should be allowed to make some mistakes, and he's said some stuff that people are upset about, and he's got to live with that. That's like I said earlier. You want to put yourself on this stage, you got to deal with things you say that
Yeah.
people don't like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you better speak the truth because you got to live with it. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe he made a mistake, said something that he said the wrong way, and his partners obviously want to be in Cup, right?
Right.
There's more exposure. That's anybody, right? But you have to have the budget to be in Cup.
Mm-hmm.
He has that for some races. So in my opinion, I agree with him sticking to Cup because it's what he wants. And him sticking to what he wants is what got him where he's at. And he's very young with a ton of seat time, a lot of experience, definitely got talent. We've seen how many times he run in the top 15. I mean, he's done an unreal job with the cars he's had and chances he's had. He just, unfortunately, it didn't work out when I hoped it would have for him. And I still tell him I believe that he'll get another shot. He just has to keep digging, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
the only time you're out is if you quit,
Yeah.
right? Or you don't have a heartbeat, right? It's like if you keep working, then you got a shot as long as you got a heartbeat, right?
Yep.
And I believe he can make his way back. He did an incredible job at the 500. He outraced me. He was in my duel. I'll say this. We went last year, 23, 24. Just go there on there, have some fun. Got up to third, raced, ended up wrecking. But I was a lap ahead of the only car I had to beat in that duel in 24. We had it, and then I crashed, right? And it's like this year they're like save fuel so the stop will be faster and it'll put us in a better position. And I'm back there bored to death saving fuel, and
Riding
I'm
around.
watching Corey, and Corey's right there in front of me, and then I see Corey short out, right? Like I could see it. He's like, I'm not doing this. And he works his way up a little bit, and I'm like, oh, I want to go bad. And I thought I should, but the duel before, if you were in the position Corey was in, you would have wrecked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, just listen to your guys, be smart. And I was smart, and it got me nothing, right? So we went home, and I was like, I called Corey on, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday, and I was like, dude, just want to tell you that you could not have executed that any better, right? It
Yeah.
just phenomenal job, start to end, whole weekend practice, qualifying race, whole 9 yards. Your team just excelled, and you guys deserve it. I'm proud of you. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
And to the point that Corey was making, if he'd made that move in the truck series on a Friday night, that's still great. It's still a great move. But this is the Cup Series. This is the Clash. This is the event that, I mean, the highest level of racing. And that I do really, really appreciate you laying it out in the means that you did, because I felt like after talking to you for a while and hearing you have a perspective from being behind the wheel, you have the
mhm.
perspective from being on the business side of things, and having to make the decision from both as the driver side of business and the owner side of business. And also just hearing you talk about mentality you have towards chasing, dreams and goals, and you could go run Xfinity
Yeah.
more if you wanted
Oh
to,
yeah,
but
we can run a full season of Xfinity.
yeah,
We're very
but
fortunate to be in a position that we are in a sport that you can, if you choose to not have sponsors and pay your own way, you can do that. It's a
mhm,
negative to the sport and it's a positive sometimes, right? And it's like for me, I would say everybody in the sport would agree that it's a positive that Jessica and I can afford for me to go race if we want to because we did it the hard way. We didn't just buy our way into the sport, right?
right.
The money we have, we worked and earned, and if I want to go race, I'm a real racer. I deserve to be here, right? And people would
Mhm,
say that. There's some situations where money gets some people in positions they shouldn't be in, and that's not good for our sport. And I wish it wasn't the case. But this is the life we live in, and this is the sport we have, and we have to take the good with the bad. And Jessica and I have figured out a position, our way to be in a position that we make, we make the most out of something that could be bad, and we turn it into a good. So it's bottom line. I would love to race trucks full time, and I would never give up my part time cup schedule though, and I just decided that, right? Like I wasn't prepped. Like I can tell you for sure, if I had a full time truck ride and the owner was going to cover everything, let's say he's going to pay me $500,000, right? And I have 6 speedway races in cup sitting here with my own car, okay?
mhm,
Knowing that I'm going to struggle to make the 500. I haven't made it yet, right? I'm going to struggle to get to mid pack with my car. I still 100% take my car. Like I want to drive. Now it's got nothing to do with being. I do enjoy the fact that I get to drive for her. It means a lot to me.
mhm,
But it's it's more I want to drive a cup car at the top level. And if I'm going to get told, hey, you have to pick, I'm going to tell you to kick rocks because I don't take those kind of comments very well. So if I had somebody cool that said, hey, we want you to run full time trucks, if it was a 30th place ride, I'd say yes to it right now.
yeah,
Like I would do it in a heartbeat because I'd love to race. I don't care. There was a part of me that thought when we sold that I would only do things that were competitive, and I've said this in interviews. Um, I can tell you now that that's not my mind frame anymore. Like I would, I will only do stuff myself and pay for it myself if it's competitive.
right,
Okay, I'm not going to spend my money to go run 15th, right, or 20th or 30th, whatever. But if there was a team out there that said, hey, you know what, we're starting, we know you got 350 or 60 starts. We know you take care of equipment. You can help us get off the ground. We know you know infrastructure because obviously we're successful with our businesses and our racing teams. Would you drive for us? I'd drive if it was a 30th place car. Like it would
just
be
to be behind the
it's
wheel.
still winning. You're
Yeah,
still taking X and getting it today,
right,
right? It's like
right,
you are making something more than what it was when you showed up. And if you're doing that, I don't care what it is, that's success. It's
mhm,
all measured in different ways, it's all seen on different levels, but that is success. And I am cool with that because I love racing. The slowest car at Xfinity or a truck race, still on a mile and a half, runs 170 plus. That's still a good day. It's better than sitting on your couch, right? So I would 100% jump on that. And I think going back to how this started with Corey, Corey has to stay focused because he has a short window to get another chance. And I think that's a couple years, maybe 4. Um, I believe he'll get it. And I want to say that now. That way, if he does, I was right. Right. So
mhm, and he's there. He's
he's got
still
the
there, and
core.
that's what's important.
He's got the core. He's got the base to do it.
Yeah,
He's financially okay to do it. He's got great partners around him that support him, and I think he'll work his way to another shot at full time cup racing.
and it's just like we have just been saying, this Cup Series, this field, this next gen car, any given day, any given team, any given car, any given driver, you just
Yes,
never know how things are going to
so
shake
wild.
down. It's wild.
Yeah.
I have one segment I want to do with you before
Okay.
I wrap this up. I do it with all of my guests.
Yeah.
I call it long story short because I am the queen of saying, "Hey, so long story short,"
And
and
then
then
it'll be
giving
in 10
you,
minutes.
yeah, the yeah.
I do that a lot too. I have to watch it.
It's don't watch it. At least not
Yeah.
with me. I love it. Please.
Yeah.
I always want the long story. Turns out everybody doesn't, but that's okay. So I say that to say, by all means, this can be the shortest or the longest answer you want it to be.
Hmm.
But I have 3 questions for you. The first one is, when was the last time that you cried?
Um, that's a good one. Actually, I have to
Jessica, feel
think.
free to tap in as well if you
It's
know.
always over family. I can tell you that right now. There's
Yeah.
the only things that make me cry are things I like, and that's the family thing. So,
Is that a
uh,
only happy tears kind of thing, or you're just
if
saying,
things
oh,
are bad, I won't cry. Like it's always happy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't cry over bad shit because I just feel like you can make it better. Like I don't.
Like, what are
To
tears gonna
me,
do?
yeah, that's just me, right? Like it's not for everybody, but
Such a
that's my core.
badass. You're like
But
so
the
like not even meaning to say
yeah,
these things, but they're just
but when I'm happy, yeah, yes, very, yeah, yeah. There you
Oh,
go. Yeah.
Jessica
So
says you're
and
sentimental.
and honestly,
Okay.
my niece probably she can make me cry pretty quick because I love her to
Okay.
death. Yeah. So
So
that's
anything
that.
family related.
Yeah.
Isn't a moment in particular that you can think of lately?
Oh yeah. No,
Oh,
she
your
was giving her
niece's
so she
pageant.
was. That's right. She was so my niece she won what was it? Was it Miss Highlands? It was Miss Teen Highlands County. Yeah.
Good
So
for her.
something to do with Highlands County pageant, right?
Okay.
And she had won it. She won it over a year ago, right? And she's going to give it away and we were in town, so we were like, "All right, we'll go watch." She's sitting there and Jessica starts crying and I'm like, "I'm going to cry too. Like I can't do this cuz
Oh,
you're listening to her speech and you hear her voice and you remember what it was like for her to be this big, right? And it's
mhm.
like, shit, I can't have a kid because I don't know that I can make it, right? It's
Oh,
like
I
she's
can't
not
even
even my
imagine.
kid. So no, it was that was definitely so it was in February last time I cried. Only a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
And this is by no means to make fun of you, but I just
I don't
because I
care.
truly just BJ McLeod, the dark hair, the ripped jeans, the Affliction shirt, the boots at the pageant with tears in his eyes is the best mental
Oh
image to
yeah.
me ever to think
Well, I had
about.
to keep it together. Like I had to keep it together so she'll start bawling if she sees me cry. She's gonna like
How do you
lose it.
not? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I did
Oh.
get water in my eyes anyway, but I was like, I'm like, keep it together, stop thinking about it. And I just block out
Yeah.
the
Think
sound
about
of her
anything else that
talking.
I can right
Yeah, but I
now.
was like, if I hear her talking, I
Oh.
start crying. So
No,
it
that's a
was
lot. That's
it was
good.
just cool because she worked really hard to win those and I told her she's just gifted when it comes to that stuff and she won the first one she tried. She's won like 4 or 5 of them now growing up. And I was like, she started volleyball, right? And she's getting her butt kicked in volleyball. And she's like, you could see the failure, hurting her a
Mhm.
little bit. And I'm like, that's why I told you should appreciate how you win in these pageants because all things aren't that way. You're
Right.
just gifted at this certain thing and it makes it easy for you. Don't think all things in life are like that, right?
Yeah,
So
right. Enjoy this.
yeah,
Celebrate
but then
this.
hearing her give it away in her speech, I was
Ugh.
like, man, I'm gonna cry. So
Proud,
anyway,
proud tears. Those are
yeah,
good ones.
yeah.
Okay, next question for you is when was the last time that you remember just feeling an immense amount of pride in something that you had done?
It's easy. Day after I married her. Yeah,
Oh, now I'm gonna cry.
yeah. Truth.
Oh,
Yeah. No, I remember sitting in the back of the we had a rental house. We had a rental house in North Carolina, and I remember getting back home and walked out back to let the dogs out, and I was sitting there and I'm like, holy shit, coolest day of my life.
oh.
Like seriously, the most important day I've ever had.
And
Like
like
hands down.
look at what you guys have built together.
Mhm.
Holy cow. That's the coolest thing that like you the day of a wedding. Yes, it's probably very
Yeah.
easy to sit back and go, "Coolest day of my life." Like
Yep.
it's just parties for me. But to let the dust settle and wake up the next morning with your
Oh
wife
yeah.
and go, "Yeah,
Truthfully,
this is my
it was
life
probably
now."
a week later because I had to go straight to New Hampshire to crew a car, and we never went on honeymoon. We haven't been on honeymoon yet. No.
Girlfriend.
Yes.
Girlfriend.
So yeah, I can remember that clear as day. I was like, seriously, when I let the dogs out, and I was sitting there, and I was like, that is the most valuable thing I've ever accomplished in my life. Yeah.
How old were you guys when you got married?
I was I was still 29. She was what 32 probably. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was what I was going to ask. He said you met
Yeah.
at 19, so I was going to say that
Yeah.
was 10 years of
Yeah. Well, we were
waiting for
together.
that day.
Yeah, we were together
Oh,
10 years when we got married.
I just love you guys.
Yeah.
I want you guys to adopt me. You're by no means old enough to have me as a child, but if you're looking for one, I'm here, okay?
Right?
I'd love to throw an axe every once in a while, I promise. No, I'm kidding. Okay, last question for you is one piece of media, it can be a song, it can be a website, a TV show, quite literally anything that you would recommend for our viewers to go check out. When I say anything, I'll give you an example. We've had movies about movies that I've never even heard of recommended, and then Josh Williams recommended the website that he buys his car parts at. So like, I
That's
mean,
funny.
quite literally anything.
Yeah. I would probably stick. I love to watch TV shows, right? Like that's kind
Okay.
of Jessica and I's thing. Like we'll whatever day we have, we get food and it's known. Do not say a word about business, right? Like we'll get food, we cook whatever, it'll show up. We'll get to the table, and you don't talk about business. We turn the TV on, we watch a show or something, and then after we can figure out the next day or the one we're currently on. But that's how we got through all the hard times, right? It was like we always had that hour to ourselves, just to enjoy it. And I've watched so many TV shows, but I think I liked ones that tell good stories and let you know stuff that it might be valuable, right? And it's like the Yellowstone series, I really like how they tell the story about Montana and just how you're fighting for something
Mm-hmm.
and truthfully in that, I feel like he should have realized that the smartest thing for his family was to sell, right? And set his family up that way. But there's also a sense of pride of keeping something a certain way for a certain amount of time. And it could go either way in life, right? You could use either side of that story to help motivate you, depending on what you're doing. But the story writing of Yellowstone and the things that, the core good story values of it, it's awesome. Now obviously there's a lot of bad ones that you won't pay no attention to, and that's a TV show, right?
Yeah,
but
that's anything.
but you get the life lessons that you might see throughout that with the family part of that, that series, and how the Duttons are always trying to protect that ranch. I think there's some life stories in the backside if you can get through all the drama and the weird stuff that they put in to make it a TV show.
Okay, Yellowstone. And
Yeah.
see, much like you do often that you don't even realize, you are, by saying something that you're saying, you're also, I'm learning something else. Like you're teaching so much around that. And Yellowstone was the suggestion, but truly what I took away from that, the suggestion being your routine and what you just said, in taking that time to sit down, turn on a TV show, not talk about business, not
Oh,
talk about
I
work.
can tell you right now, if you're going to be in business with your wife or your husband, you have to find an hour a day every day to make sure that there is nothing to do with business discussed. You have no chance if you don't. Just go ahead and get divorced or don't get married in the first place.
And
Like it's not
sometimes
going
I
to work.
think even if you're not working together in business, like
Yeah,
even if you have your own separate lives, it is really
absolutely. Yeah,
really easy sometimes to just get caught up in all of that. That,
yeah.
to your point, to be able to separate those
You
two
have to
is
remember in the
huge.
relationship, what comes first is the relationship. What comes second is the kids. And as long as you keep it in that order, you will have a successful life. It's just, you have to make sure your relationship's good to help the children to keep them successful. And I've seen that from my parents. I've seen Jessica's parents are, have been married, what, 20, 30 years, something like that. I don't even know how long. It's what, 40? No, they've been together 40, 45 years, right? It's like, so we're both coming
Wow.
from families of 45 years plus of marriage and very fortunate for that. And it's like the things I've seen is my mom and dad were first and I was second. And
Mm-hmm.
some people don't like it when you say that. And if you get asked if you have a kid, like I don't have a kid myself, but obviously I love my niece to death. So I held her, I was third person to hold her, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's 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 a difference in loving your kid more than you love your wife, but making sure your relationship is solid first to give the kid foundation to be successful. And I think that, the core of that is making sure you're healthy, your relationship's healthy. And to do that, you have to have time that the outside world is not a part of. That
Mm-hmm.
whatever your lives are doing for you, and good, bad, doesn't matter, there's always a certain amount of time in a day you can set out because all your problems will be there tomorrow. Trust me, they're not going away. So whether you worry about them 24 hours or 23, it's not going to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you set out some time for yourself.
Because you guys are a team.
Yep.
You're a team. And you guys are a team, especially. I mean,
Yep.
you are the team, truly. I will say, though, I think step one in all of that is marrying a man who cries the day after he marries you, or even thinking about the idea
Yeah.
of marrying you. That is
So
goals. That's what I want.
I
Girl,
told,
you got it.
I
She's
told,
got
I
it.
told myself I wasn't going to cry at the wedding, right? And they played the song, the first note of the song, I'm crying, and I'm standing out there by myself crying,
You're
and
like,
I'm like,
oh, I had one rule.
oh, I could not mess that up any worse. And then I got to talk, and I can't talk, and I'm like,
uh,
I'll just do everything. So I just dumped the stuff in the glass or whatever. They had us mix some stuff or whatever.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like,
You're like, I just got through it.
yeah, I'm like, I was on cruise control then. I had could not do anything.
Please, going into a wedding, if you have to tell yourself I'm not going to cry, might as well just
Yeah.
cut your losses there.
Well, I
We've all
thought
been
I
there,
could
right?
do it. I'm pretty mind strong.
Yeah?
No chance.
Nah, not
No,
when it comes to her. We already
no,
established that.
no.
which is a good thing. It's a great thing. Yeah. No, really, I love you guys. I don't know if I've said that or not. I think I've said it a million times, but truly, I respect you so much, just as friends. Even the way that you have treated me over the years and getting to know you guys through work. Really, I appreciate you. So thank you. And to then now have me here in your home, in your speakeasy, is beyond just so appreciated. So thank you.
We appreciate you taking the time to come out, and we appreciate you telling the stories about, racing and all the other stuff you get into. It's just cool to watch, and we're happy for you. And
thank you.
Just thank you for coming by and taking the time.
Of course. Oh, and I want to say quickly too, I was already huge fans of you guys, and then I drove down the what do you even call this? The long driveway that you get up to their home, and I knew I was here because I turned left at the gargoyles, the black gargoyles, which how friggin' cool is that? And then there was a mini donkey, and I was like,
we have a ram too.
A bit. I was like. And then I pull in, and cars are great. I parked behind the most gorgeous Mercedes, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, I love the way they spend their money. They're throwing axes. They got gargoyles. These are my kind of people.
We're not going to die, and people say, well, they didn't live. Because we definitely lived. That's all you can do, right?
I love it. Live fast.
That's for sure.
BJ and Jessica had no idea what they were doing when they said, you're always welcome. Come over anytime. We'll be back. We will be back. Okay, also, I mentioned the axe throwing. Quick note on that. They're probably the only people that have this axe throwing contraption in their home. Apparently, this is a business thing, but Jessica did what Jessica does, and she made the calls that she needed to make, and they were able to get the licensing or what have you. I don't know. Whatever they needed to do to have it in their house. That's so freaking cool. So yes, I will be back to throw an axe and drive a go-kart and pet the miniature donkey. A lot more fun content where that comes from. Speaking of fun content, the rest of this month we have 2 interviews from females because it's Women's History Month. I was waiting for the applause, but it was just hard to hear over the roars and cheers. Anyways, okay, look, 2 Women's History Month interviews to round out the month of March with 2 incredible females in our sport, both Jade Avedizian and Carson Elledge. So get excited for those. But that's all I got for you this week. Thanks for listening. I love you so much. Have a great weekend. Mom, thank you for listening. I love you so much. And in the wise words of my mother to send you off into this weekend, don't be a dumbass, okay? Bye.